This is the story of Kim Song-kyul, a man thrown into another world who's already pushed the warrior class to its absolute limits. After cutting down countless monsters, he drags his massive hammer behind him, heading straight for the ruler of fear. What's interesting is that the ruler himself is trembling for the first time in his life, and it's all because of Song-kyul. Suddenly, a giant fiend lunges from behind. Song-kyul doesn't even bother turning his head. One effortless swing of his hammer, and the beast collapses, lifeless on the ground. Watching this, the embodiment of fear shaking like a leaf asked for mercy. Song-kyul hurls his hammer, smashing the ruler's jaw, then leaps forward, snatching it midair. With a skillful strike, he enlarges the weapon and brings it crashing down, crushing the ruler's skull and ending his reign. Here in the Otherworld, it's cursed by 5 recurring cycles of catastrophe, ancient tragedies that have devastated the world for ages. Today, Song-kyul has chosen to put an end to the first one. He steps through a massive door, entering the lair of the demon lord Hathanius Max. At this point, Song-kyul has made enemies of everyone, but it doesn't matter. He's here for one reason only: to kill the demon lord. As he approaches, something feels wrong. He can't sense any energy from the demon lord's body. It's there, motionless but lifeless. That's when Hathanius reveals himself as a spirit. He's done this deliberately, knowing physical attacks can't harm him. And remember, Song-kyul may be the strongest warrior alive, but he knows nothing about magic. Hathanius mocks him, saying that even though his army is gone, the prophecy of destruction will continue as long as he, one of the 5 great catastrophes, remains alive. In that moment, Song-kyul realizes he's been completely outplayed. As much as he despises sorcery, there's no other path forward. He'll have to go back to square one and master the sorcerer's path. Only then can the real fight and his true story begin. Soon after, Song-kyul made his way back to the very place where it all started. Pillar lights shooting up everywhere from the summoned palace. You know what that means? More humans are about to get dragged from Earth straight into this otherworld. And for those of you feeling lost right now, don't worry. Just stick with me and it'll all make sense as we move forward. Song-kyul, this dude was first summoned all the way back in 1996, back when he was just doing manual labor after leaving the military. That means he's been stuck in this world for 25 whole years. And with all that time grinding, becoming a max-level warrior, he knows exactly what's coming if he shows his true self. The wizards would swarm him like rabid dogs. So, using that sharp brain of his, he activates the Veil of the Deceiver's skill. This is clever because it completely hides his real class and stats, and even changes how he looks, letting him move around unnoticed. The summoned palace itself is massive, with different squares, but Song-kyul has a plan. He heads straight to the underground waterway in the White Square, where a wolf beast guard is stationed. Moving quickly, Song-kyul knocks the beast out cold, then hangs its body from a tree with a note that says, "Goodbye, cruel world." And he grabs the wolf's spear, turning it into a makeshift harpoon. Now, I know what you're thinking. Why go through all that trouble? Well, it's genius actually. By making it look like the wolf took its own life, nobody's going to suspect that an intruder snuck in among the summons. The underground waterway is not the kind of place you want to take a stroll through. The stench of blood is everywhere. It's suffocating. For Song-kyul, this hits hard because it's the same spot where he almost died when he was first summoned. The memories of all those humans who didn't make it out alive flood BAC. But this is the only way for him to switch to a wizard class without drawing attention. And to make it interesting, if he manages to sneak in with the newly summoned humans and grab a quest, he can choose wizard as a subclass, meaning he won't lose his hard-earned warrior class. He'll get to keep both and use them together. As the moment arrives, he sees a swarm of homunculi gathered, waiting for the new humans to show up. Song-kyul isn't wasting time. Using the harpoon spear he stole earlier, he snags one of the homunculi, drags it over, and demands the quest log. The creature refuses, acting all tough, so Song-kyul slices off one of its limbs, threatening to take more. That gets the message across real quick, and the homunculus finally hands it over. With the quest log now in his hands, Song-kyul accepts the Summon Square quest, meaning he can now blend in with the incoming humans without anyone suspecting a thing. But that's not all. He also got 3 newbie quests. Among them, the Observationist quest stands out because completing it grants him intuition, which is crucial for a wizard build. And remember, he's been cursed, so boosting intuition is something he desperately needs. After dealing with that, Song-kyul finishes off the homunculus to clean up the mess. Not long after, the new wave of humans finally arrives. These people are completely lost. Some are asking where they are, others think it's all just some weird dream. The homunculi waste no time ordering everyone to accept the quests. One guy, though, tries to resist, thinking he can talk his way out of it. 3 homunculi jump him immediately, 2 pin him down while the 3rd leaps at his face, slices his head clean off right in front of everyone. A brutal demonstration to show exactly what happens if you think you can defy them. Then, as if things weren't already tense enough, the massive iron doors nearby creak open, and a horrifying sound echoes from the other side. Everyone suddenly gets a warning notification popping up, telling them they might die. But Song-kyul started laughing. After surviving 25 years of pure hell and non-stop grinding, someone's warning him that he might die? That's just comedy to him. Among all the confused humans who just got summoned, there's this one guy who's actually heard about the Otherworld before. Apparently, a Ritterni told him about it, a world where only those who survive a death trial can even become members. Which means every single person summoned here has faced a near-death experience back in the real world. That's the entry ticket. Cheating death once makes you eligible to be thrown into this nightmare. Everyone's handed a basic sword, and the homunculus leading them doesn't sugarcoat anything. Fight or flee, or you'll be eaten alive. The giant iron doors creak open, and out comes this massive red mantis. At first, someone laughs it off thinking, it's just one bug, we got this. But before they can even blink, a swarm of mantises bursts through, slicing people apart like paper. The guy who thought it was easy, beheaded instantly, blood spraying everywhere. Right next to Sankyol, a terrified girl clings to him, begging for help. As the mantises charge, Sankyol swings his weapon once, effortlessly dropping them. But immediately he realizes, if he goes all out, he's gonna draw away too much attention. Keeping a low profile is key here. Meanwhile, there's this red-haired dude going full berserk mode, slicing mantises left and right. You can tell he's got real talent. The rest try sticking together to defend themselves, but experience matters here. The moment the leader tells them to run to the wall, he turns around, and everyone who was following him is already dead. That's the thing about this place. Having no experience just speeds up your death. Sankyol notices something strange too. Some people aren't even being attacked by the mantises. These are what he calls the chosen ones. He's seen this exact scenario before, nothing's changed. Watching from a distance, he also spots two figures, a man in heavy armor and a mage woman, just standing back, observing as people get slaughtered. Seems like they're the ones overseeing this summoning trial. Suddenly, one of the homunculi waves a red flag, yelling for everyone to run if they want to survive. But little did they know it was a trap. As soon as desperate people sprint that way, another kind of monster appears, devouring anyone who comes close. Chaos erupts everywhere, monsters swarming, people trampling each other, everyone fighting just to stay alive. Amid the madness, a doctor tries pulling a dirty move, planning to use another guy as bait to lure monsters to the gate and save himself. This is when Sankyol decides to have some fun. Out of nowhere, he starts trolling, saying Simon says, time for introductions, introducing himself as Sankyol Kim. The doctor looks completely lost, like, what is this guy even talking about? Then Sankyol picks up a mantis head and hurls it at him, calling it a gift. Classic trolling, but there's strategy behind it. It completes his sociable person quest, earning him Black Hawk claws. Not long after, Karma catches up to the doctor, and he's ripped apart by the mantises. Sankyol moves on, walking to the scripture carved into the entrance of the square. He wipes away the blood covering it and reads aloud, "Death will set you free." This immediately grants him 1 point of intuition. When he opens up his stats menu, you can instantly tell those 25 years grinding in the Otherworld weren't wasted. His strength, agility, stamina, spell resistance, spirit, all insanely high. Magic power here means raw destructive force and tons of mana. But intuition, that's the secret to understanding advanced magic. Right now though, his intuition is at -9, meaning there's no way he's even sniffing the wizard class. To unlock it, he needs at least 10 points. He looks up at the night sky, seeing 2 moons glowing above. Doing that completes the Romanicist quest, earning him 1 palace token. And you want to remember that name, palace tokens hold way more value than they seem. From this massive summoning, around 2,500 humans were dragged into the blue, scarlet, white, and crimson squares. And now, barely 100 are left alive. Finally, the Summon Square quest wraps up. Sankyol already knows the limit. You can only boost intuition by 10 through regular quests. To go further, he needs a hidden quest. Just then, he notices a small group laughing together, bonding despite the carnage around them. Above their heads, there's a mark, the Eye of the Observer. Seeing that, Sankyol gets hyped because he knows exactly what this means. He's just found the hidden quest he's been searching for. So after the brutal trial, the survivors are barely hanging on, injuries everywhere, fear in their eyes. The only ones who don't have to worry as much are the chosen ones, but for everyone else, it's pure survival mode. Until the next trial, they're on their own. Then the homunculus leader shows up, acting like he's doing them a favor. He says he's merciful, giving them 1 week of rest so they can adapt to this new world. But the truth, there's nothing merciful about it. There's no food, no water within these walls. If you want to live, you've got to step outside into danger, or worse, turn on each other. Meanwhile, the chosen ones get special treatment, and Sankyol manages to sneak in among them, blending in perfectly. Now, let's break down this whole Eye of the Observer thing. Basically, it's a tool the higher-ups use to pick out people who show potential or have special connections. It can also communicate with their guides. To make it simple, think of your guide as your teacher, and through the Eye of Observer you can connect and talk with them. The chosen ones gather in a dense forest crawling with wolves that are 3 times bigger than the ones we know on Earth. There are 25 chosen ones here in total. Johan Lee steps up and asks if everyone can hear the guide's voice. He's talking about that observer's eye. Lee says he wants to work together with everyone, but then his attention lands on Sankyol. He notices something's off, gives a sly smirk, smirk and says he's looking forward to seeing them again once the trial's over. Not long after, the leader of the homunculi finally appears. This guy introduces himself as the discipline director, a homunculus of wisdom. And here's the chain of command. At the very top, you've got the higher-ups, then the low-grade wizards. Below them is this discipline director, and finally, the chosen ones. The director orders everyone to follow him, leading them to an abandoned cathedral dedicated to the god of order. Inside, there's this massive cube surrounded by a single giant eye, the cube being the ultimate symbol of the god of order. The Summon Palace is supposed to stay absolutely neutral under the name of this god. But what's happening here? Straight up corruption, right inside the cathedral that's supposed to represent righteousness and goodness. The discipline director commands them to line up in front of the altar. As soon as they do, multiple eyes emerge from the cube, scanning each person carefully. For Sankyol, this is a nightmare. If that scan reveals he's not truly chosen, it's game over. Thinking fast, he activates the veil of the deceiver skill, throwing the scanning eyes into confusion. Luckily, it works. He dodges detection, but not without consequences. One of the chosen nearby catches on that something's not right. After the scan, every chosen one receives a massive stat boost, plus 10 points in strength, agility, and vitality, but only while they're inside the Summon Palace. They also get upgraded swords that make their old ones look like toy blades. These new weapons are 10 times better. Just when things seem to settle down, another homunculus rushes in with urgent news. Apparently, there's another chosen one. The discipline director is baffled because all 25 chosen ones are already present. This is where the real trouble begins. Turns out, the missing chosen one is Aram Park, personally handpicked by the leader of the Iron Blood Knights, the guy we saw earlier decked out in heavy armor. And remember that chosen who noticed something strange about the scan? He steps forward, pointing right at Sankyol, calling him out as the mole. Before things could blow up even more, Lee stepped in with what sounded like a pretty solid idea. He suggested that everyone should just reveal the name of their guide. That way, they'd easily figure out who the mole is. One by one, people started saying their guides' names. Then, this one dude gets a little too cocky, grabs Sankyol by the shoulder, and whispers that maybe he should just make a run for it while he still has the chance. What a genius move, except not. Instead of saying his own guide's name first, this idiot basically handed the floor to Sankyol. And that's when our guy pulled off some next-level thinking. Using the Black Hawk Claws effect, Sankyol managed to snatch the guy's eye of the observer right out from under him and made it his own. The moment he grabbed it, he could hear the guide's voice loud and clear. He asked the guide for its name. It responded, Krill Regal. Once that done, he tossed the eye away and confidently said out loud, "My guide is Krill Regal." Everyone bought it, and the guy who tried exposing him, completely stunned. Just like that, it was game over for him. Sankyol played him like a fool. The next day, everyone's out training, trying to get stronger and prepare for the upcoming trial. Sankyol, wanting to keep a low profile, checks to make sure nobody's watching him. Then, in a blur of speed, he taps a training dummy several times in rapid succession. He figures that's subtle enough, but nope. The dummy literally turns to ashes from just his light taps. Realizing what just happened, Sankyol bolts out of there before anyone notices. Meanwhile, Jongsik Cheon, that red-haired guy who went crazy during the Mantis fight, starts forming his own clan. His recruitment method is to make people fight each other, and whoever survives gets an invitation to join. While watching all this unfold, Sankyol spots Aram Park and decides to quietly follow him. Aram wanders over to a spot where people are fighting over scraps of food. In the chaos, a girl gets shoved down and can't grab anything. Aram swoops in, picks up her glasses, even cleans them for her, and offers her safety and plenty of food if she sticks with him. Little did she know, this guy is straight up creepy. Also forgot to mention, Aram Park is actually the son of the commander of the Iron Blood Knights, Songteek Jo. Later, Sankyol tracks where Aram took the girl, only to stumble upon a horrifying sight. Her lifeless body on the ground, stomach ripped open, organs spilling out. Seeing this, Sankyol's calm demeanor vanishes. He's furious. This sick monster needs to be stopped. Just as he's about to move in, he notices slimes creeping through the area, a sign that things are about to get even messier. These slimes are no joke. If one of them latches onto you, your skin doesn't just burn, it literally melts right off. While one of these slimes lunged at Sankyol from behind, all it took was a single punch, and the thing was splattered. But they just kept coming, wave after wave, and every time Sankyol's fists connected, another slime was gone. Soon, others in the area noticed the slimes swarming toward them. Panic broke out. Some people were screaming as their skin started melting away, while others didn't even get a chance to fight back before being completely consumed. That's when Lee rushed in, yelling for everyone to run for their lives. Sankyol even had time to warn Yoingjong Ha, telling him to get up if he didn't want to die right there. Once the crowd scattered and the area was clear, Sankyol focused on what he came for, Aram. Moving in silently, Sankyol closed the gap, slammed his foot into Aram's back, kicking him straight into the middle of the slime-infested ground. The smoke and destruction made it impossible for Aram to see who attacked him, but Sankyol wasn't done yet. He dashed forward, throwing a devastating punch that sent Aram flying high into into the air before crashing down hard into the ground, right where more slimes were waiting to swarm him. Just as it looked like Aram was about to be torn apart, Dolorant's Winterer appeared. With a powerful freezing spell, she instantly froze the surrounding slimes, saving Aram from certain death. Turns out, Dolorance is Aram's guide, a middle-grade wizard from the White Square, personally tasked by Aram's father to keep an eye on him. Using her spell, Abyssus Freezing, she gathered all the remaining slimes into one giant frozen mass and shattered it completely. Even after getting his life saved, Aram didn't change, still walking around with that same cocky attitude. Dolorance handed him a potion and explained that the only way to make him stronger was to take on a hidden quest. And this right here was exactly the opening Sankyol needed. If he can get into this hidden quest too, it'll help him boost his intuition, something he desperately needs. Dolorance then led Aram up the mountain to where this hidden quest would take place. But even here, it was clear, Aram was way too weak to complete it on his own. Dolorance made it clear she couldn't help him during this trial because it's one of the legendary 7 heroes trials, specifically Vestier's trial. Hearing that, Sankyol couldn't help but grin. This was something huge, a chance that could change everything for him. The moment Sankyol stepped into the cave, arrows started whizzing past him, guiding him deeper inside. Following their lead, he eventually arrived at a special guardhouse where a strange Echo's portal stood before him. According to Sankyol, Vestier was a legendary wizard who had completely mastered the wizard class. What puzzled him, though, was how someone like her ended up in the Book of Destruction. As he approached, a mirror emerged from the portal and asked what dream he wished for. The moment he touched the mirror, the hidden quest officially began. Moving forward, Sankyol wondered what the 7 heroes wanted to leave behind for those attempting this trial. He figured they must have made it back when they still had faith in humanity. But then, strange creatures suddenly appeared, and the entire place reeked of blood. Sankyol instantly took back what he said about trust. Judging by the stench and the ominous vibe, this was definitely more about sacrifice than faith. The creatures merged into one, latching onto Sankyol's mind and pulling him into a dream world. The first dream dropped him on a beach, surrounded by beautiful girls smiling and calling him over to play. Anyone else might have fallen for the trick, but Sankyol wasn't about to get fooled. He whipped out his hammer, ready for whatever was coming. Sure enough, the girls turned into demons, lunging at him. One mighty swing of his hammer smashed the illusion instantly. First test passed. The next dream was worse. Sankyol found himself chained up as a swarm of mantises rushed him all at once. Then, out of the shadows, the demon lord appeared, mocking Sankyol for failing to kill him. Even bound in chains, Sankyol, using sheer strength and skill, he broke free, turned the chains into weapons, immobilized the demon lord, and smashed him with his hammer. Another dream shattered, another test cleared. The thing is, these mind tricks didn't stand a chance from the start. Sankyol's unyielding skill made him completely resistant to mental attacks, meaning no dream demon could break him. That's when something incredible happened. He felt an overwhelming surge of magic energy. From behind, Vestier herself appeared, or at least a memory fragment of her. And just this fragment alone carried enough magical pressure to shake the air around him. Vestier explained that the trial couldn't truly proceed yet. Only those who can overcome 32 pleasures and endure 27 pains can claim the reward. But come on, we just saw how Sankyol demolished every dream demon thrown at him. This guy was more than ready. Vestier knew it too, which is why the real trial began, a direct showdown between her and Sankyol. She opened with a spell that filled the area with sticky spider webs to slow him down, followed immediately by a massive fireball aimed straight at him. But none of these tricks worked. Sankyol tanked the blast, ripped through the webs, and charged in for a strike. Vestier used teleportation to dodge and countered with another fireball, but this time, she got serious. Utilizing her secret technique, Echo, she multiplied the spell into over 10 blazing fireballs, all homing in on him. Even then, Sankyol's speed was unmatched. In a blink, he was behind her, slamming her hard into the ground. Demanding answers, Sankyol asked where the other 7 heroes were. Vestier replied calmly that they would reveal themselves when the time was right, just as the prophecy of destruction foretold. As Sankyol prepared to deliver the final blow, she looked at him with a knowing expression and said he was just like them. Through the dream demon, she sensed the same anger and disappointment in humanity burning within him, an even deeper resentment than what the 7 heroes themselves carried. Vestier's eyes burned bright red as she glared at Sankyol, asking him what he would do when the pathetic hopes that keep him going are crushed. That was it. Sankyol's patience snapped. With pure rage fueling him, he swung his hammer with devastating force, smashing it straight into her face and finishing her off for good. Now let me break down what's really going on behind all this. A long time ago, countless humans were summoned into this other world. They were abandoned by the gods, left to fend for themselves. But despite being thrown into chaos, these humans, barbaric yet noble, managed to confront the world's greatest catastrophes. Their victory came at a massive cost, countless sacrifices, and at the center of it all stood 7 legendary heroes. But their story didn't end with glory. According to ancient prophecy, These 7 forgotten heroes would one day reincarnate in the demon world, a place ravaged under the devil's army. And when they returned, they wouldn't bring peace or hope. They would bring blood, death, plague, and war. The Book of Destruction even claimed they had been corrupted and would rise again alongside chaos itself. But Sangkyul isn't shaken. Standing tall and confident, he declares he won't end up corrupted like they did. Upon defeating Vestier's dream trial, he unlocks a new achievement fittingly titled Dream Wrecker. He gains 30 palace tokens, a solid plus 10 boost in magical power, intuition, and spell resistance, and finally, a brand new weapon, magical moonlight staff. With these gains, his intuition is no longer in the negatives. Just as he's taking this in, another chilling notification appears. The 7 heroes are now aware of him. From this moment forward, he's under their watchful gaze. And that's not all. Vestiaire leaves behind a final parting gift, a powerful artifact known as the Book of the Echo Master. With this secret skill, Sangkyul could eventually replicate any spell and cast it repeatedly. The problem is when he tries to open it, it's locked tight. To unlock it, he needs at least 20 points each in magical power, intuition, and spell resistance. And if that wasn't frustrating enough, he also needs 50 palace tokens. Now, let's shift over to Hyeonsik Jang's teacher, Krill Regal. Remember this guy? Jang is the one who tried to out Sangkyul as a mole earlier. Well, Regal is losing his mind because Hyeonsik Jang hasn't responded at all, and with the status report due tomorrow, Regal knows that if he doesn't figure something out fast, he's a dead man walking. In a panic, Regal uses his magic tracking orb to replay Hyeonsik Jang's past moments. That's when he catches a glimpse of Sangkyul's face, hearing him ask about his name again. The realization hits Regal. Something's off. Desperate, Regal rushes to Dolorance, begging her to help him or at least lend him her eye of the observer. But Dolorance doesn't even pretend to care. She flat out refuses, calling him useless and brushing him off like trash. Regal tries pleading, but she instantly shuts him down, unleashing her freezing aura to make her point crystal clear. She doesn't even bother reporting him to their superiors, because by tomorrow, once Regal is exposed, he'll be dead anyway. Completely broken, Regal leaves the area, tears streaming down his face, fully aware his time is running out. And that's when Christian, a notorious slave hunter, spots him in that pitiful state and casually asks if he got rejected by his crush or something, completely unaware of the storm Regal is caught in. Christian told Regal he actually had a way to save him. Handing him a key to the Summon Palace, he explained that Regal could use it to sneak into the area where slaves were being kept and try to find Hyeonsik Jang. Desperate and with nothing left to lose, Regal took the key and rushed to the palace. Unfortunately, luck wasn't on his side. As he searched, 2 homunculi suddenly grabbed onto his legs, asking him for candy. Already on edge and burning with panic, Regal killed both of them without hesitation. Afterward, he grabbed a red robe, threw it on, and focused on the only thing that mattered, finding Jang before morning came. Meanwhile, Sangkyul was busy handling his own preparations. He used the Soul Vault to safely store the Echo Scroll, and when he opened the vault, oh man, it was loaded. Powerful weapons, piles of gold, food supplies. It was like looking into a lifetime of grinding and surviving. 25 years in the Otherworld definitely wasn't wasted. From that stash, Sangkyul picked out the Moonlight Staff, deciding it would be his weapon of choice for the upcoming trial. But he still needs 9 more intuition points to unlock the wizard class, and he's running low on palace tokens. Tomorrow's ranking battle could be his chance to earn more, but showing off too much would definitely draw the attention of the higher-ups, a risk he can't afford just yet. Back at the palace, the homunculi delivered food to the remaining humans in preparation for tomorrow's ranking battle. The Chosen Ones, on the other hand, didn't have to worry about fighting for food. They were being pampered and treated far better than everyone else. As for Aram, well, Sangkyul wasn't exactly thrilled about it, but he knew he had to stick close to that creep a little longer if he wanted to see this through. Just then, Yoing Jongha approached Sangkyul, offering him a sandwich. As they ate, Sangkyul's mind was already locked on tomorrow's battle. The decisive fight would undoubtedly happen in the final stage, and from everything he knew, it would either be under Alamo rules or Pac-Man. Whatever the case, he needed to be ready. Finally, Regal showed up again, still frantically searching for Jang, but now wearing a red robe. When Sangkyul spotted him from a distance, he thought for a moment that Regal might actually be a necromancer. Not too far from there, for real necromancers were already hard at work, summoning the undead, fallen humans who had already met their end here, all in preparation for tomorrow's brutal ranking battle. Regal finally spotted the group of Chosen Ones, scanning every face desperately for Jang, but he wasn't there. That's when his eyes landed on Sangkyul. Something immediately felt off. Unlike the others, Sangkyul didn't have an eye of the observer. But Sangkyul wasn't about to let Regal ruin everything. Thinking quick, he slipped into the shadows, baiting Regal to follow. The moment Regal crept close, Sangkyul let him get near enough before turning the tables. With a sudden bone-crushing punch, he nearly killed Regal on the spot. Disappointed, Sangkyul muttered that he thought Regal might have been a necromancer, but clearly, this guy was just a weak wizard. Desperate to survive, Regal dropped to his knees, begging for mercy, explaining he wasn't an enemy. He was only there searching for hide-and-seek Jang. Sangkyul coldly told him the truth. Jang was already dead. Hearing that shattered Regal completely. Tears streamed down his face as the weight of failure hit him. Watching the broken man cry, Sangkyul finally made a decision. He tossed Regal a small pouch and told him if he wanted to live, he'd better do exactly as instructed. In return, Regal would have to help him later on. The next day, Regal followed through with his part of the deal. He approached Sangil Ma, a high-ranking official of the Iron Blood Knights, and handed over the pouch Sangkyul had given him. Inside was pure emeralds, enough to buy Regal's life for now. Sangil Ma, somewhat amused, revealed that hide-and-seek Jang was actually still alive, which only twisted the knife deeper for Regal. Keeping his word, Regal secretly sent out a message using a small squirrel as a courier. The intel was crucial. Tomorrow's ranking battle would follow Alamo Rules, a brutal zombie tagger event. There were special rewards for the top 3 participants and an extra bounty on a rare monster called the Red Hat. Under Alamo Rules, all summoned humans would have to band together to fend off waves of monsters, or die trying. Finally, the big day arrived. The arena gates opened, and hordes of zombies poured in, swarming every inch of the battlefield. Unlike the terrified recruits around him, Sangkyul stepped forward wielding his moonlight staff. He struck first, taking down a zombie in a flash. With that first kill, the tone was set. Playtime had just begun. Sangkyul knew exactly what he was after, the zombie with the red hat. Taking it down meant bonus rewards, and he wasn't leaving this battle without grabbing it. But the higher-ups handed Aram, a guy who can barely fight, a freaking spirit wolf staff. This thing isn't a toy. If you can't control it, it can turn the whole battlefield into chaos. The chosen ones were doing their best, holding the line and slicing through zombies. One of them, a young girl, was clearly out of her depth. She would have been zombie chow long ago if not for others jumping in to cover her. Then came Aram's grand disaster. He activated the staff, summoning 2 massive black wolves that tore zombies apart with ease. The problem? Aram couldn't control them. Instead of just targeting zombies, the wolves started mauling humans too. Completely losing it, Aram screamed for the wolves to attack anyone who dared get in his way. One wolf lunged straight at the struggling girl, but Sangkyul dashed in, yanked her out of harm's way, and took down the threat without breaking a sweat. Zombies were closing in fast. Sangkyul kept fighting while carefully counting every kill. He had to keep his numbers low. Going too high would push him into the top ranks, drawing attention from the higher-ups. So far, he had 28 kills. 2 more and he'd hit 30, just enough for a solid reward without raising red flags. That's when he spotted it, the red hat zombie. But Aram's chaos was making everything worse. The wolves were out of control, attacking everything that moved. Sangkyul had enough of this clown show. He ripped the head off a nearby zombie with his bare hand and hurled it like a missile. It slammed into Aram's face, knocking him out cold and instantly shutting down the spirit wolves. With that problem handled, Sangkyul set his sights on the red hat zombie, only to notice someone else had locked onto it too. A blonde girl, unbelievably fast and powerful for a newcomer, was sprinting in. Knowing the staff wasn't precise enough, Sangkyul switched to his sword and hurled it with deadly accuracy, piercing the zombie's heart. But this blonde girl, she was smart. Instead of going for the body, she went straight for the head, landing a perfect strike. A notification popped up. Both Sangkyul and the blonde girl had jointly killed the red hat zombie, meaning the bonus would be split 50-50. The system offered 2 possible rewards, 3 palace tokens, or an energetic kite shield, with the choice going to whoever picked first. Before Sangkyul could make a move, the blonde girl instantly grabbed the palace tokens. That threw Sangkyul off. Most newbies wouldn't even care about tokens. They'd go for gear to survive longer. But this girl, she knew exactly what those tokens were worth. After claiming her reward, she vanished without a word, leaving Sangkyul wondering, was she like him? Another long-timer who knew the ins and outs of this brutal world? With that, the first ranking battle wrapped up. The Summon Palace Committee reviewed the results. The White Square, Sangkyul's group, had killed 852 monsters total. Out of the 4 squares, blue, scarlet, white, and crimson, the White Square came in dead last, 4th place. Since Sangkyul only racked up 35 kills, he stayed below the cut line and received just a compensation reward, earning an A rank with basic survival supplies. Now came the final choice of reward: Purifying Elixir, Explosion Scroll, or Wind Magician's Scroll. Before Sangkyul could decide, Yoing-jong-ha walked up, holding a Purifying Elixir. He explained his guide told him to pick that one for safety. But Sangkyul just smirked. Playing it safe wasn't his style. A defense item might keep you alive a little longer, but it won't win you anything big. Without hesitation, he picked the Explosion Scroll and, with that signature cocky confidence, told Yoing-jong-ha, "I don't like surviving the easy way." Yoing-jong-ha wasn't having any of Sangkyul's cocky talk. He straight up told him not to act tough when he scored lower. Sangkyul froze for a second, like, wait, what? No way. To make sure, he whipped out the record stone tab to check the stats himself. And oh boy, this was humbling. First thing he noticed, Mugi-ah, that mysterious blonde girl, teamed up with Jongsik Cheon, and together they racked up a jaw-dropping 242 kills. Neither of them are even chosen ones. Meanwhile, Yoing Yoing Jong-ha had 44 zombie kills, putting him ahead of Songkyul's 35. As for Aram Park, who had the fancy spirit wolf staff, the guy only managed 29 kills. No wonder he was stomping around, throwing a tantrum because someone stole his precious staff. Just then, remember that timid girl who clearly wasn't fit for battle? She approached Songkyul and Yoing Jong-ha. Her name's Songai Bae, and because of her looks, every guy around her was practically tripping over themselves trying to protect her. Songkyul didn't care. He could tell she was hesitating to even talk. But then she asked Songkyul straight up to lend her his staff. She promised to do anything he wanted as long as it helped her get out of this place. She even mentioned her uncle is a member of the Iron Blood Knights, trying to sweeten the deal. But Songkyul wasn't impressed. Instead of agreeing, he told her to go ask the higher-ups what they could offer him. Bae, desperate, decided to take a different route. She led him to a dry well and revealed there's a hidden quest down there that could grant someone the alchemist class. At first, Songkyul wasn't interested. He's aiming for magic, not potion making. That's when Bae started talking to her guide and revealed the real value. The hidden quest could push Songkyul's intuition up to 15 if he completed every task. That changed everything. Songkyul handed her the staff, but not without a deadly warning. If she was lying, he'd kill her without hesitation. With that, he jumped into the dry well, triggering the hidden quest. The system welcomed him with a grand title, The Wonders of Time, Traces of Eckhart of the 8 Heroes. Songkyul blinked. 8 heroes? Everyone knows about the 7 heroes, but this was the first time he'd heard of an 8. When he made a snarky comment about never hearing of this Eckhart guy, the system took offense, and even deducted one of his intuition points. That was the final straw. Songkyul grabbed the notification system itself and started squeezing it like it was a living thing. At first, it didn't react, but as he tightened his grip, the system actually screamed for mercy. Yes, the freaking notification system was begging. It quickly restored the lost point just to stop the pain. Despite thinking this quest might be a waste of time, Songkyul learned it wasn't that simple. The final exam of Eckhart's Wonders of Time could give him +1 intuition for every attempt, up to 10 points. On top of that, he could gain a familiar if he met certain conditions, and even achieve a great feat. Songkyul wasn't impressed. Only 10 points? That's nothing, he muttered. The system asked how much he wanted, and Songkyul calmly demanded 20. The system tried bargaining, first 12, then 14, finally settling at 15, explaining it was the maximum it could offer. With the deal set, the quest officially began. Songkyul gripped his hammer, shattered the first door blocking his path, and stepped inside, ready to see what this so-called 8th hero had in store for him. Inside the well, Songkyul found himself in what looked like a research lab, which made sense since this was an alchemy hidden quest. He casually grabbed 2 potions from a nearby table, and just from doing that, he got 1 point of intuition. Even the system was straight up trolling him at this point. The first test began, and he had to prove his alchemy skills. Suddenly, a small golem appeared, but let's be honest, this thing was barely working. Songkyul didn't even bother doing anything fancy. He just threw the potions at it. The poor golem caught fire, ran around like a headless chicken, and collapsed to the floor. That was enough to grant him another intuition point and unlock the alchemist subclass. Songkyul stood there, baffled at how ridiculously easy this was. When he checked the downed golem, he noticed its nucleus core was flawless. That told him something. If Eckhart really made this, then whatever familiar he'd get from this quest might actually be top tier. Moving deeper, he found an altar. To officially earn the title of alchemist, he needed to open the book on it. But from here on, he had to fully commit to becoming an alchemist to continue. As soon as he stepped forward, traps activated everywhere. Of course, we all know Songkyul could just smash the entire place with a single swing and walk out with the rewards. But instead, he decided to play along. The system then hit him with another twist. It would cost him 20 palace tokens to fully unlock the alchemist class. The system even joked, "Hey, we gotta make a living too," completely trolling him again. Annoyed but with no choice, Songkyul opened his class window and switched to alchemist. Side note, besides his main ancient warrior class, he also has a senior cook subclass, which is why later on you'll see him cooking like a pro. As soon as he switched classes, the traps automatically shut down. Moving ahead, he found a cooking pot with a table full of ingredients. The task? Craft an item capable of breaking the Mandagolem's shackles. Thanks to his alchemist class, he could now see detailed info on each ingredient. But instead of carefully thinking through combinations, Songkyul did what only he would do. He just grabbed everything he saw and tossed it in. While mixing, his mana drained rapidly. Frustrated, he grumbled that no wonder nobody likes this class. Eventually, he brewed a strange purple potion. Pouring it on the spiderwebs blocking his path, nothing happened. The timer ticked down, 30 seconds left. The system taunted him, calling him a talentless failure. That was it for Songkyul's patience. He grabbed the web with his bare hands and tore it apart effortlessly. This brute force solution triggered the final exam: destroy a massive 3-headed golem. Without hesitation, he summoned his hammer, dashed forward, and with a single devastating slam, crushed the golem instantly. The system lost it, yelling and calling him a con artist. But regardless of how he did it, he completed the hidden quest. He received the book of the Wizard of Creation, a familiar in the form of a living book named Bertelja, Eckhart's portable cauldron, and an impressive plus 11 intuition points. That's when the living book finally spoke, and its first words to Sankyol? It called him a shameless con artist. From the book, a little girl suddenly popped out, and she was straight up shocked that her so-called master is someone like Sankyol. Her name's Bertelja, a living book familiar that was gifted to him. She explained that she carries Eckhart's alchemical wisdom, but before she could even finish, Sankyol just snatched her book form away, not even letting her do her job properly. He immediately asked if there was a way to break the curse of extinction, and Bertelja hit him with a cold. Of course not, since even Eckhart himself couldn't solve that problem. Among his rewards, though, there was something crazy: the Book of the Conjurer. In all of Sankyol's 25 years in the other world, he had never heard of such a thing. This book wasn't just rare, it was legendary grade. Owning it meant unlocking the legendary conjurer class. But it came with a quest. He had to find Eckhart's daughter and follow her path to the truth. Now Sankyol assumed Eckhart's daughter had been dead for thousands of years, so without a second thought he tossed the book into his vault. Then Bertelja broke the news: she's Eckhart's daughter. And what does Sankyol do? Without even blinking, he throws her into the vault too. Later, Sankyol got news about the second-ranking battle from Regal. This one had a Pac-Man and Tam Tam style game, and the rewards depended on performance in each square. Regal warned him that if he couldn't keep supplying precious gems, there'd be no more information coming his way. Sankyol wondered why the higher-ups always picked the hardest path and started questioning whether the bond between the White Square and the Iron Blood Knights had finally ended. The stakes were high, since first-place rewards were more than double the second place, and falling behind meant fewer palace tokens. Tokens basically equaled power, and Sankyol wasn't about to lose ground. His plan was simple: rally the Chosen in his square. Since all the Chosen had feelings for Songhai Bei, and she didn't have a purifying elixir, he knew if he convinced them everything was for her sake, they'd blindly follow along. So he announced some hell-level training to prep for the ranking battle. But of course, drama never takes a break. That dirtbag Aram tried touching Bei, and she shoved him off instantly. Yang Zhong-ha, who actually liked her, stepped up and knocked Aram out with a punch. In terms of strength, Yang Zhong could crush him, but Sankyol knew this wasn't going to end clean. Still, our guy didn't really care. His plan came first, and if Aram got in the way, then he'd deal with him. The next day, training kicked off. Sankyol pushed everyone hard, and even promised a feast for those who finished without dropping out. After that, he approached Hakshul Kim's gang. He tried explaining the benefits of training, but Hakshul wasn't having it. People were too tired and hungry, so Hakshul refused, and that was that. They were out of the plan. Then Sankyol moved on to Jongsik Cheon's gang. Unlike Hakshul's group, these guys were motivated by raw power and profit. Sankyol explained that if they followed his training, each of them could boost their strength, agility, and stamina by up to 25 points. Considering most of them had stats around the 10 range, they could literally double their power. That was enough to convince Jongsik, and his gang joined the training. With this, Sankyol's White Square was basically guaranteed to grab first place in the upcoming ranking battle. Later that night, he kept his word and threw a massive meat dinner straight from his vault. Everyone went crazy for it since they hadn't eaten meat in ages. But Aram was off in the corner, glaring at Yangjong and clearly plotting something. Sankyol knew Yangjong was in danger, but he didn't care. His focus was only on tomorrow's battle. Finally, dawn came, and with it the start of the ranking battle. The rules were brutal. They had to survive an hour being chased by a ferocious monster called Tam Tam. If they managed to kill it, they'd instantly win. Right as the massive gorilla was about to storm the arena, Bei came rushing in to tell Sankyol that Yangjong was missing. But there was no time to waste. Tam Tam was already here, hungry and ready to crush everything in its path. Sankyol noticed something odd. Aram and the Chosen Ones were grouped together, and every single one of them had the purifying elixir in their hands. Meanwhile, that massive gorilla Tam Tam wasn't holding back. It started grabbing humans left and right and chomping them down like snacks. Jongsik wasn't about to let his people die pointlessly, so he quickly ordered his gang to split up and keep running until the mission ended. When Tam Tam reached Aram's group, the Chosen all popped their purifying elixirs at the same time. And because they did it simultaneously, the effects stacked, forming one insanely strong barrier that the gorilla couldn't break. Realizing he couldn't touch them, Tam Tam just went after other humans instead. But Park didn't use his elixir. Instead, he took off running, clearly scheming something. While chaos unfolded, we cut over to Armor Bach, the so-called commander of the Stormfront Alliance. This guy just chilling with girls, sipping drinks, casually watching people get slaughtered. Right in front of him was Sangil Ma, and this man started questioning if the palace summons were straight up trying to wipe out the descendants of the Iron Blood Knights. Don't worry if it sounds confusing right now, stick with me. All of this will make sense soon enough. Sangil left the stage and went to Dolorance, asking about Aram. She reassured him not to worry, since she gave Aram a purifying elixir. That left Sangil completely stunned. How? It's impossible to make a purifying elixir with alchemy or magic, since it's a literal blessing from the god of order. But Dolorance explained she followed the Iron Blood Knight's code. And let's just say that line carried a heavy meaning. For those connecting the dots, remember how Yongjong conveniently went missing earlier? Yup, now you see where this is going. Back on the battlefield, Songkyul, Bae, and 2 others were hiding. He explained that once Tam Tam devoured around 30 more people, it would be full, and the game would be considered over. But of course, Aram showed up right where they were hiding. This guy hurled his sword straight at Tam Tam to grab its attention, basically dragging the monster right towards Songkyul's group. Then Aram used Yongjong's purifying elixir to activate his own barrier, flexing like he had the upper hand. Songkyul told his team to run in formation once he gave the signal. The gorilla got close, the group scattered exactly like they practiced, and Aram smugly thought everything was going according to his plan. The funny part, he had no clue Songkyul had already seen through it all. Nothing was out of control. Songkyul's squad lured Tam Tam right into the perfect spot, and then boom, our guy whipped out an explosion scroll, setting that giant gorilla on fire. With the gorilla caught in flames, Songkyul dashed in through the smoke, dagger in hand, and started slashing the beast with multiple strikes, weakening it bit by bit. Then Jongsik jumped in, swinging his blade left and right, and soon enough all the other survivors piled on, hacking away at the monster. Tam Tam was still hanging on though and tried to swing back at Songkyul, but Bae stepped up with the moonlight staff and blocked its attack, shutting it down. Everything unfolded exactly the way Songkyul planned. In the end, the survivors met the winning requirement. Since they all contributed to killing the gorilla, the reward got split into percentages. Songkyul's share was 18%, and that was enough to rank him at S grade. His haul: a scorpion stinger whip, 14 palace tokens, and 2 weeks worth of food. For his special reward, he picked the soldier's crossbow. The ones who used their purifying elixirs walked away with nothing. That was the price of burning them during the battle. After the dust settled, Songkyul pulled Lee aside and asked him straight up, "Where's Yongjong?" Lee clearly knew something but kept his mouth shut. So Songkyul tried bribing him with 2 apples. Lee still refused. Then our guy upped the ante, offering top-tier dry-aged meat cooked with the finest skill. That was enough to get Lee talking. He revealed that Yongjong had gone to the abandoned cathedral with the head of discipline. When Songkyul investigated, he found Yongjong's body lying there, and near it some wolf fur. But this didn't add up at all. Wolves never approached this area, since the square's creatures kept them away. Just then, the head of discipline showed up pushing a cart to load the body. Acting fast, Songkyul grabbed him and demanded answers. The head of discipline first claimed it was Aram Park, but come on, we all know that piece of trash doesn't have the strength to kill someone like Yongjong. Pressured, the head of discipline finally cracked and revealed the truth. Aram Park is actually a werewolf. Knowing he couldn't resist, he submitted himself to Songkyul, declaring he was now his slave. At that moment, Songkyul dropped his disguise and asked if the man remembered him. The head of discipline froze, stunned, and called him the world's enemy, the one who was supposedly killed 5 years ago by the human dwarf allied forces. And little did this homunculus know, Songkyul never died. It was actually him who spared the human dwarf alliance, letting them live. Let's jump back to the others. Jongsik had just killed some of Hakchul Kim's men after they laid their hands on his clan's belongings, and now he was demanding compensation. The tension was about to explode into a full-on fight when Aram strutted in, all cocky, pretending like he could calm the situation down. But the second he laid a hand on Jongsik, Jongsik slashed Aram's hand and warned him to never meddle in his business again. That's when Aram finally dropped the act and revealed his true form, transforming into a terrifying werewolf right in front of everyone. 2 men from Jongsik's side tried to stand up for him, but Aram ripped through them in a single strike with his claws. Aram then lunged straight at Jongsik, ready to tear him apart. Tolerance quickly contacted him, telling him to stop. Too many people were watching, and if he lost control now, he could end up facing penalties in the upcoming trial. But of course, Aram didn't listen. He went straight for Jongsik anyway. Just when it looked like Jongsik was about to get shredded, someone activated the spirit wolf staff. 2 massive black wolves appeared, pouncing on Aram and holding him down. He struggled hard, but the wolves immobilized him until the transformation wore off, forcing him back into human form. According to Songkyul, the werewolf transformation only lasts for about 5 minutes, but that short window is more than enough for Aram to assert dominance over the square. Looking around, Songkyul's sharp eyes caught who summoned the wolves. It was Mugia, the blonde girl. Turns out she was the one who managed to snatch Aram's staff earlier. Right then, new intel came in from Regal. This time it was about Tolerance. She had graduated from the magic school in Erdert, specializing in icecraft. Her skills? Top-notch. But her reputation? Horrible. Everyone knew she was materialistic, greedy, and always power-hungry. And on top of that, she kept tabs on Aram constantly, never letting him out of her sight, except for one thing. Whenever Aram took women into the forest, she never watched. Regal added that Aram was planning to take a woman into the forest right now, which meant Tolerance wouldn't be keeping an eye on him. For Songkyul, this was the perfect opening. The perfect time to finally get rid of that scumbag once and for all. Here's where Aram finally gets what's coming to him. He dragged a girl into the forest and literally started eating her alive. But just then, Songkyul Songyeol stepped onto the scene. The moment Aram saw him, he froze with fear. He couldn't even understand why he felt that way. Songyeol explained it perfectly. Unlike humans, animals can instinctively sense whether the one standing in front of them is predator or prey. And right now, Aram knew exactly where he stood. Without wasting time, Songyeol grabbed him and slammed him straight into the ground. But he didn't stop there. He picked up a thick wooden stick and smacked him with another brutal strike. Aram panicked and started screaming for Dolorance to save him, but she wasn't watching over him this time. Songyeol just kept hammering him, blow after blow, until the transformation finally wore off and Aram was back in his human form. Desperate, Aram tried bargaining, saying his father was the commander of the Ironblood Knights, and if Songyeol killed him, he wouldn't be safe. But that didn't add up. Aram was a brand new summoner here, so how could he be the son of the commander? Cornered, Aram confessed. A Ritterni came to him back on Earth and told him he was the commander's human son, promising him wealth and luxury if he came to the Otherworld. And for context, returnees are people who've somehow managed to survive this Otherworld and make it back to Earth. Turns out the higher-ups use them to recruit in secret, snatching up the hidden sons and daughters of influential figures and dragging them into this place. In fact, Songtaek-jo, the actual commander of the Ironblood Knights, had 3 children after coming here, but they all died to the curse of extinction. So this whole Aram is his son story was nothing but manipulation. Then Aram made it worse by spewing nonsense, saying Yongjong's death wasn't his fault. That was the last straw. Songyeol rammed that thick stick straight into his mouth, shattering his teeth. He gave him the brutal reminder that in this world, power decides everything. Acting tough just because of his background meant nothing here. Aram, barely holding on, thought Songyeol was showing him mercy by sparing his life. But that mercy didn't last long. The forest suddenly filled with vampires. They swarmed the area, surrounding Aram from all sides, and in an instant they lunged at him, ripping his body apart. Mugia shows up, and she's here to kill Aram too. Now think about it. Who walks alone to confront a werewolf? Definitely not your average summoned. That already screams something's up. So our guy pulls out the Eye of Truth. Her real name is Sujin Lee. Stats: above average, nothing too flashy, nothing that screams broken OP build. But there's this weird vibe about her that doesn't sit right. Then she comes clean, well, halfway. She admits she's not your ordinary summoned, but keeps things vague. No digging into Songyeol's business, no giving up too much about hers. Just enough to keep the mystery alive. What she does reveal is that she has her own reasons for being here. She did well in the last contest, and now she's on the lookout for talented allies. Naturally, Songyeol wants to know why she's so dead set on eliminating Aram. I mean, come on, he's a werewolf. That kind of raw power could be useful in the ranking battles. According to her, guys like Aram are more trouble than they're worth. They're a liability, the type to cause chaos in an organization instead of helping it. And you know what? Songyeol actually liked that answer. So he says, all right, I'll cooperate, but on one condition. If you know about any hidden quests, especially ones tied to magic, you spill the info. She agrees, fair deal. Then she asks his name. The second she hears Songyeol Kim, she actually flinches. Something about that name clearly got to her. But hold up, because Dolorance then enters the scene, only to find a very gruesome sight, Aram's corpse. Head and part of his upper body, that's it. She freaks out instantly, because if Aram's father gets word about this, she's absolutely screwed. But Dolorance isn't one to sit and panic. She starts scheming on how to clean up this disaster. And the very next day, plot twist, Aram shows up again like nothing happened. Except, he's not really Aram anymore. The body's there, the face is there, but the soul? Gone. Songyeol checks things out and figures it out quickly. Dolorance must have used necromancy to turn him into a puppet. Not only that, she even tossed in a spell to stop the body from rotting, just so nobody catches on. Meanwhile, Dolorance is already thinking big picture. She heads straight to Regal for help. And here's where you'll laugh. Remember when Regal needed her help and she straight up refused? Now she shows up, says a few words, and this dude immediately agrees. Peak clown behavior right there. She drags him into the slave passageways in the White Square and hands him a blood bottle. Not just any blood, but werewolf blood. She tells him to take good care of it, like it's some precious treasure. Regal, being Regal, doesn't even question it. Later on though, he does spill the beans to our guy. Dolorance's plan is way darker than anyone thought. She's aiming to wipe out everyone in the White Square. And 6 werewolves are going to be among the summoned in the next ranking battle. That's not just trouble, that's a whole storm waiting to blow up. Dolorance has gone full psycho mastermind. She's created 6 werewolves in the blue square. Let that sink in, 6. A single werewolf was enough to throw the White Square into absolute panic. So imagine 6 of them unleashed at once in the ranking battle. That's not a fight, that's a slaughterhouse. So Songyeol knows he has to come up with something, anything, before this turns into a massacre. He pulls out Bertelja from the vault and asks if there's any alchemy trick to deal with werewolves. And of course, Bertelja, being the mood lifter she is, goes, "Of course there is." Flips through her book, and there it is, the eternal flame. A fire that never dies out. Perfect, because werewolves are weak against fire. The problem? The ingredients sound impossible to get. Even Bertelja doubts Songyeol can gather them. But our guy doesn't hesitate. He grabs his hammer, goes mining to pull out a golden stone. Next, he hunts hunts down the blood-pudding queen, wrestles with that gooey nightmare, and actually walks away with her fluid. Finally, he goes toe-to-toe with a giant manticore and rips out its heart. And here's the funny part. Bertelja's jaw practically hits the floor. She thought this would be impossible, but Songkyul's out here collecting ingredients like he's shopping at a grocery store. Now comes the best part, mixing the eternal flame. Bertelja tries to remind him, this isn't cooking, this is advanced alchemy. But Songkyul just ignores her and starts treating it like he's whipping up a gourmet dish. Adds each ingredient carefully, organized, precise. It works. The eternal flame is born, proving his point. Alchemy really is just like cooking, if your recipe calls for monster hearts and queen slime juice. And hey, don't forget, our guy literally has a senior cook subclass. That's his cheat code. But here's where it gets clever. Dolorant's real objective isn't just wiping out the chosen. She's trying to erase all evidence of her failure by getting rid of Aram Park. Songkyul realizes this and decides to turn her own scheme into his weapon. The next ranking battle is coming up. It's a death match, no mercy, everyone against everyone. A bonus captain match after the death match, where 3 captains are chosen from each square to fight the decisive battle. Normally, captains hide behind their people to survive longer, but Songkyul knows the blue square is cocky. With 6 werewolves, they're going to put them in the front, even make them captains, because they think it's impossible for those monsters to die. That arrogance? That's where he plans to strike. For the white square, there are 5 candidates: Jongsik, Hakshul, Sujin, Lee, and of course, Songkyul himself. So he starts executing his plan the next morning. First stop, Lee. He straight up lies, saying his guide told him the bonus game will be a captain match, so they need 3 captains. He even says Lee is perfect for it, but Lee refuses, insisting he and his people will fight on the front lines. Songkyul warns him it's suicide, but Lee won't listen. Next, Songkyul visits Hakshul. He asks if Hakshul plans to step up as captain. Hakshul says yes. His group is the largest, so he feels morally responsible. But Songkyul flips it on him. He suggests Hakshul's people should stay in safer positions to protect the others, while Lee's group handles the front. Smooth manipulation. Hakshul buys it. Then comes Jongsik. Songkyul tells him not to fight on the front lines, but Jongsik takes offense, like Songkyul's calling his people weak. So Songkyul changes gears. He says, fine, if scores mean more to you than your life, do what you want. But wouldn't you be better off as one of the 3 captains in the bonus match? Don't you think you deserve that spot? And Jongsik swallows the bait whole. He agrees to become one of the captains. Classic manipulation at its finest. Finally, Songkyul meets Sujin and updates her that everything is falling into place. That night, the 3rd ranking battle begins. Rule death. Kill the summoned from the other squares. White square versus blue square. Lee's group takes the front lines, just like he insisted, and he's even fighting alongside them. Songkyul already warned him not to do this, but Lee ignored it, which only speeds up his own demise. And just like Songkyul predicted, when Lee clashes with a blue square fighter, it's not a regular human. The guy transforms into a werewolf. The blue square really did throw their beasts straight into the front lines. The battlefield right now is nothing short of pure chaos. You've got Armor Bakker standing there with Dolorance, just watching everything unravel, while on the other side Sangil Ma is frantically searching for Aram. But Aram's already dead, and Sangil has no idea. It's just a matter of time before the commander learns the truth about his son's death. Things get worse. Hakshul ends up getting killed by one of the werewolves, and Lee, poor guy, is in a horrible state, losing 2 of his limbs. Now he's regretting not listening to Songkyul, but regret doesn't heal missing arms and legs. It's too late. Our boy, though, he's in a tough spot, surrounded by Bae and 2 others, all of them desperately trying to protect Aram's corpse. Songkyul even went as far as handing his weapons over to them. But the wolves weren't going to wait around. One of them finally tracked the scent of Aram, the so-called living dead. Suddenly, all 6 of the beasts charged straight at Songkyul's group. The party tried their best, launching arrows and casting spells, but that only slowed the wolves down. One of the monsters even broke through and nearly reached Aram, but our guy stepped in fast and kicked that werewolf away. Songkyul managed to bait all 6 wolves into one spot. Then he turned to his group and ordered them to run if they valued their lives. With the wolves in position, our guy stepped next to Aram's body, mocking the creatures and taunting them to get closer. And just when they did, he leaped into the air and threw a bottle of water onto Aram. Sounds weird, but Songkyul had covered Aram's body in the substance of the eternal flame earlier. To that fire, water is like pouring hot oil on a stove. The second the water hit, flames erupted violently, trapping all 6 wolves. Some of them died instantly, others were left screaming in fire. One wolf tried to leap at our boy even while burning, but his party rushed in to protect him. And honestly, it's kind of funny because he didn't even need saving, but hey, they had his back anyway. Meanwhile, Sangil Ma is breaking down, realizing just how deep of a mess he's in. Aram's body is burned, the wolves are dead, and now the blame for everything is about to land squarely on him. Armor Bakker doesn't make it easier either. He mocks Sangil, reminding him that a certain wizard from the white square told him to place his bets on the blue square. That's when the truth hits Sangil. Dolorance had been pulling the strings the whole time, but by now, it's too late for him to do anything about it. On Dolorant's side, though, her plan had flopped. The 6 wolves were ashes. So she changed gears and went for the bonus match instead, ordering Regal to bring in the Gumnos. For context, a Gumnos is basically a brutally strong slave fighter armed with a weapon, and she's planning to unleash them. Now you'd think the fight was over, but not quite. At the end of this bloody battle, the white square had 205 survivors left while the blue square stood at 201. That would mean white square technically wins, but here's where things take a dark twist. Lee, who's somehow still clinging to life despite missing limbs, suddenly gets struck by a homunculus. And it's not just him. Every single person who was badly wounded, but not dead yet gets finished off by these homunculi. Their purpose was clear: make sure no half-dead stragglers survive. By the end of it, both sides are left with exactly 83 survivors each. See what just happened there? The higher-ups rigged it all. They forced this bloody tie on purpose, just so they could push everyone into the bonus match, where the real showdown begins. The captains themselves are going to fight each other. Everyone's still catching their breath from the carnage earlier, but no rest for the wicked. The bonus match is about to begin. The rules: each square picks 3 captains. Simple in theory, deadly in practice. Song Cheol calls the survivors from White Square together, stares them down, and basically tells them, if you want to keep breathing, you better show up to the meeting. On the other side, Blue Square is getting a visit from none other than Regal. Now remember, Dolorant's already slipped werewolves among them. They tore through their ranks, and now the survivors are standing there looking like they've just walked out of a nightmare. To help, Dolorant sends Regal over. One guy decides he's not buying what Regal's selling, so Regal answers by killing him right there in front of everyone. That's all it takes for the rest to fall in line. Nobody's asking follow-up questions after that demonstration. But Dolorance isn't done stirring the pot. She sends a message to Songteek Jo, commander of the Ironblood Knights. Hey, by the way, Sangilma's been bribed to threaten your son Aram's safety. The real one responsible for Aram's death is the same woman pointing the finger at Sangilma. Guards show up and arrest Sangil like clockwork. And because Dolorance always has one more trick, she goes to the new discipline director. Remember, the last one was killed by Song Cheol himself, and tells him to make an announcement. No enforcer battle this round. In the bonus match, captains will be picked based on their ranking battle scores. Blue Square picks Teekjo Lee, Yeongil Bae, and Yongham Kim. But one dirty little secret: Dolorance swapped one of them with a Gumno, a killing machine set to wipe out White Square. White Square's captains are Jongsik, the blonde Sujin, and of course, our guy Song Cheol. The rules are brutal. 10 minutes per fight. Captains must kill each other within the time limit. If all your captains die, the whole square loses. Every survivor is doomed. Song Cheol spots Regal in Blue Square's lineup and notices something. Regal's got an eye of the observer stuck to him. That's all the proof he needs. Regal's working for Dolorance now. First battle: Jongsik versus Teekjo Lee. Lee charges straight in, but Jongsik boots the severed head of a corpse at him, throwing him off just enough for Jongsik to close the gap and take his head clean off. Second battle: Yeongil Bae steps in. They clash hard, and Yeongil manages to slice Jongsik's face. Jongsik shrugs it off. Yeongil grins and explains his weapon is a blood kukri. Even the smallest cut means uncontrollable bleeding. Jongsik starts pouring blood, and Yeongil kicks him across the field to keep the distance. Jongsik can't keep going like this, and as Yeongil rushes in for the kill, his head suddenly explodes. Regal took him out, orders straight from Dolorance. Before Blue Square's last captain can fight, Sujin demands a player swap since Jongsik's out of commission. The discipline director says that's against the rules, until Sujin calls him out, basically saying, unless you're trying to kill us all, there's no reason to block it. Dolorance gives the green light. Then Yongham Kim steps into the ring. Song Cheol instantly warns Sujin. There's something wrong with this guy's energy. And he's right. Yongham is the Gumno planted by Dolorance. Song Cheol leans over to Sujin, reminding her, signal me if you need help. And then it's on. Yongham Kim steps forward, tall and menacing, spear in one hand, chain in the other. He starts spinning that chain, eyes locked on her like a predator sizing up its prey. The instant Sujin dashes in, he whips the chain forward. Her sword is trapped, pinned to the ground. No hesitation, though. She snatches another blade from the field and charges, aiming at his heart. But Yongham's no rookie. He twists just enough, and the blade sinks into his shoulder instead. Before she can recover, his fist slams into her with such force she's launched across the battlefield. She barely lands on her feet when he's already coming in with the spear. At the very last second, she pivots out of the way, buying herself a few precious steps of distance. And just when you think it's a one-on-one fight, Dolorance gives Regal the order: release the rest of the Gumnos. Oh, there aren't just one or two, there are more. 2 additional killing machines enter, turning the fight into 3 versus 1. Totally illegal. But the discipline director? Silent. Following Dolorance's script, Sujin grips the spirit wolf staff and summons 2 massive black wolves. They leap forward, only to be torn apart almost instantly. She tries a sneak attack from behind, but the third Gumno gets the drop on her, those giant scissor blades coming frighteningly close to snapping her in half. She dodges, barely, but Yongham hurls his spear, and this time it sinks right into her shoulder. In that heartbeat of danger, water, our guy bursts onto the scene. One clean strike, and Yongham's head hits the ground. Now, suddenly, the disciplined director finds his voice about rules. Song Cheol grabs Yongham's severed head and fires back. Then why were we fighting a gumno in the first place? Checkmate. Dolorant's grand plan? Crumbling fast. She cuts contact with Regal on the spot. The director announces the results. It's a draw. Survivors pass. And just like that, the brutal ranking battles of the Summon Palace are over. Tonight, there's a ceremony after sundown. Cut to Dolorance, slipping away from the palace like a shadow until a hand smashes her head into the wall. Surprise, it's Sangil-ma. Alive. After she framed him, no less. Poetic justice served with a concussion. Back to Song Cheol. His mind's already on the next stage, the magic school. His goal, the Golden City. Intel awaits there. But before he can move, Regal shows up flanked by two Gumnos. With Dolorance and Sangil-ma out of the picture, Regal thinks the Summon Palace is his. Regal's smirk fades when Song Cheol reveals who he really is, the world's enemy. Without a flicker of fear, Song Cheol launches skyward, hammer raised high, and smashes it into the earth, wiping all three opponents in one devastating blow. Regal doesn't get a second chance. His skull is crushed, game over. Then Song Cheol's attention shifts. He calls out to the slave hunter. Turns out Christian, the one controlling the Gumnos, was behind the scenes the whole time. Christian sees the massacre, realizes he's done for, and does something unexpected. He plunges an object into his own heart, binding himself with an unbreakable death pact, pledging loyalty to Song Cheol. Looks like our guy just gained one very useful new ally. Battle's over, dust has settled, and the survivors who made it through hell itself are finally catching a break. Their reward, a class book. This is the one that lets our boy finally unlock the power of the Echo Scroll, granting him the Echo Wizard class. Just then, Sujin shows up to make good on her promise, leading him straight to the hidden quest. They arrive, and she gives him that look, warning him not to pick a difficulty too high. She's crystal clear. I'll wait here for 3 hours. If you're not back, I'm assuming you're dead. And our guy couldn't care less. Words in one ear, gone with the wind. He steps up to this eerie, headless angel statue, lays a hand on it, and he's whisked away to a blazing desert. This is the path of sorrow, the devil's warpath that links straight to the demon world. The hidden quest? The forgotten path of Sajados, one of the 7 heroes. Sajados, known as the eclectic wizard, is nothing like Vestiaire who just replicates magic through echoes. This guy is the only wizard who can wield multiple types of magic at the same time. Translation: our boy just hit the mother of all jackpots. He's given a choice of paths. The non-existence path, the hardest, highest risk, highest reward option, is staring right at him. And come on, we all know what he's going to choose. The second he does, the ground erupts. A giant worm bursts out, huge, terrifying, and then immediately regrets its life choices as our guy ends it instantly. But the real threat's next. Out marches the foolish king with his undead army. This king made a pact with the devil for eternal life, which sounds impressive until Song Cheol shows up with a hammer. He smashes through the undead like he's mowing grass, except they just keep coming back. That's when he decides to go straight for the source. And despite the immortal label, he turns the king into dust. Eternal life denied. The prize? The final elixir, a legendary item that can bring the dead back to life. Now here's the curveball. Song Cheol, who never bats an eye at rewards, suddenly looks deadly serious. He wants this elixir. The moment his hand touches it, a memory floods in, his daughter. Yup, turns out he had a daughter once, and she died. Just as the weight of that hits, the elixir vanishes and Sajados appears. Our guy is furious. Sajados just rummaged through his memories. The wizard mocks him, throwing salt in the wound about losing his daughter and reminding him that down here, in the underworld, everyone eventually falls to the curse of extinction. Song Cheol charges, hammer raised, but Sajados fades away with a smug. Until next time. Quest complete. The rewards roll in, plus 25 magical power, magical heart, and a fire sword. That fire sword, it's got a name, Heartfire, and it's not just for show. Plus 10 strength, and it comes with a nasty flame attack skill. Oh, and Sajados, right before vanishing, tossed in 2 extra goodies. A goblin map with some mysterious purpose and a blue stone ring. No instructions, no context, just the kind of loot that makes you curious and uneasy at the same time. Back on the surface, Sujin's locked in a struggle with Sangil-ma, and in the middle of it, he throws Dolorant's severed head straight at Song Cheol. Guess karma decided Dolorant's arc was over. Sangil-ma knows exactly who killed Aram Park. Song Cheol reaches for a stone, and Sangil-ma tightens his grip on Sujin's head, threatening to snap her neck. In a blink, Song Cheol hurls that stone with such precision it slices Sangil-ma's arm clean off. And then it turns into a spectacle, stone after stone, each one hitting like it's been fired from a siege cannon. When it's time to end it, Song Cheol closes the distance and swings Heartfire. One strike later, Sangil-ma isn't just dead, he's reduced to black ashes. Sujin, staring at the smoking remains, asks where that came from. Song Cheol just shrugs. My new toy. Later, the mood shifts. Our guy cooks for Sujin. Not just a meal, a masterclass. She's stunned to realize he's a top-tier chef. But over good food comes the real talk. Sujin, she's a returnee, just like him. And she's not from last year or last decade. She's from 10 years in the future. That gets his attention. I mean, why would someone with knowledge of the future risk their life here? Her answer: she needs Baekhyung's hidden quest. Baekhyung, the peak assassin. With his techniques, she believes she can prevent the catastrophes of destruction and save the world. Which leads to the darker truth. If she's here, it means the future's grim. Our guy's main mission is to bring down one of those catastrophes, the Demon Lord. But if the world's ending later, then he fails. He asks if it's because of the 7 heroes' catastrophes. Sujin says no, they actually beat the second and third ones, exactly as the Book of Destruction foretold. But then came something worse than anything before, an unmatched catastrophe. Her words land heavy. It's the world's enemy. Name? Song Cheol Kim. She tries to reassure him, saying the future version is nothing like the man in front of her now. What she doesn't realize is that the devilish figure she's describing is exactly the man she's talking to. Thanks to the veil of the deceiver, she can't see his true identity. Before she leaves, she pats his shoulder, determined to stop that future devil. She has no idea how close he is. Once alone, Song Cheol crumples. After years of grinding, to think he still fails, it's a gut punch. But then the fire comes back. Sujin's future isn't set in stone. The timeline can be bent, broken, rewritten. And he swears, right there, he will never let himself be corrupted. By morning, he's on his feet again, ready to leave and start learning new magic. We've just shifted scenes to the Golden City. This is where the newly summoned arrive to start fresh, train up, and, most importantly, learn proper magic. Basically, the perfect spot for our guy to level up. He's already got a pile of intel thanks to his new servant, Christian. But Christian doesn't just drop facts. He also drops a warning. There's a group here called the Followers of Destruction, a creepy cult that believes true magic power comes from the catastrophes themselves. The kind of people you keep both eyes on. Christian even gives him a tip on which magic school he should pick. So off they go to the magic school of Erfurt. First thing he sees at the entrance? Dead bodies hanging. A nice, warm welcome courtesy of the Inquisitors. They part ways for now, but before leaving, Christian reminds Song Cheol to make sure he gets into the Hall of Regret. Inside the admissions office, the director, Robert Danton, officially hands him his membership certificate. Our boy, of course, smooths the process with a little persuasion. By persuasion, I mean trading some of the pure emeralds from his vault. Next step, dorm assignment. This is where things get interesting. Sitting right there is old Zogbat, a magical sorting hat that decides where you live. You put it on, think of the dorm you want 3 times, and it makes the call. So Song Cheol puts it on, and in his mind repeats Hall of Regret 3 times. But he doesn't stop there. He straight up threatens the poor hat. If it dares say anything else, he'll rip it apart, and maybe let it soak in dirty water for a week so it can meet its fate slowly. The hat, terrified, immediately screams Hall of Regret. This stuns Robert because that dorm is closed down. But hey, the hat's spoken. No take-backs. Song Cheol heads over to his new home, the Hall of Regret. It's not just closed, it's known as the Nest of Enlightenment, which sounds wise and mystical until a voice cuts through the air. It's a young girl asking him how he dares to step foot here. Her name? Sarisa Zero. And Song Cheol clocks it instantly. She couldn't have escaped the curse of destruction. Translation: she's already dead, but someone's brought her back with a powerful resurrection spell. She tosses something at him with magic just to make her point, then warns him to leave. The place is off limits. He flashes his assignment certificate. She sees it, realizes she can't argue, and introduces herself properly. Sarisa Zero, student of Icecraft. Oh, and she adds that she's 5 years his senior, and the second floor is girls only. So now our guy's dorming with an undead who doesn't seem ready to admit she's dead. Honestly, couldn't have picked a better match for him. Songkyol's wandering the grounds of the Celestial School, heading up toward the classroom perched right at the very top of its tower. But before we get to what happens there, let's rewind to what his servant Christian had told him earlier. According to Christian, the Celestial School isn't just good, it's the most powerful magic school out there, drawing its strength straight from the skies. Naturally, Songkyol asks, because of meteors? Christian explains it's more than that. This type of magic can take a single streak of light and, depending on how you wield it, turn it into a devastating weapon. Sounds incredible until you hear the catch. Learning just one of these spells takes 5 years, and to even get there you need 140 magical power and 100 intuition. So Christian floats an alternative, transfer to Logotit. He explains there's been a long, heated power struggle between the Icecraft and Flame schools, and it got so bad that the former principal's mysterious death has left the position vacant for 3 years. Logotit, by contrast, is a rising powerhouse, most famous for its school of command. But Songkyol? Not impressed. He's already strong and doesn't feel like switching. Instead, he asks about Erfurt's celestial professor. Turns out that professor, Althusius Zero, is one of the greatest wizards to ever graduate from Erfurt. And when Althusius was younger, rumors say he killed the deputy priest of an assassination order in a duel. That's not just skill, that's wizardry lethal enough to take down an assassin. Now Songkyol's really interested. Fast forward back to the present. Songkyol finally steps into the celestial classroom. Leonard Sanctum, a student there, is caught off guard seeing him. He wastes no time introducing himself himself as the apprentice of Professor Althusius. Leonard calls out for his teacher, but Althusius couldn't care less. He casually tosses Sonkyul a book and says he's too old to teach him anything. Instead, Sonkyul should change his major within a week, and until then, spend his time reading this book. Oh, and here's a neat link. Althusius shares the same last name as Sarasa Zero, that blonde-haired girl we met earlier. He's actually her grandfather. Following orders, Sonkyul sits down to read. But soon, something clicks. He starts seeing the intricate patterns in the magic circles. That's his Echo Wizard active skill kicking in. It even nets him +1 intuition. Meanwhile, Leonard can't shake the feeling something's off about him. That suspicion only deepens when Sonkyul finishes the entire book in half a day. A book that normally takes a freshman at least a month to fully solve. Every answer? Spot on. Now Althusius is curious and a little concerned. He does a bit of digging, only to find Sonkyul's been assigned to the Hall of Regret, the same dorm as Sarasa. That sends him straight over to check on her. But the strange part, Althusius is acting suspicious himself. And remember, Sarasa is undead, brought back using a powerful resurrection spell. The threads between these characters are starting to weave together. Sonkyul gets handed another book by Althusius. Now, this man can read ancient languages just fine, but this thing? Completely over his head. Our boy isn't hopeless at studying, but let's just say, this book was winning the fight. Sarasa chimes in. Why don't you just ask my grandfather? But Sonkyul refuses. Althusius isn't officially his advisor, so no dice. Sarasa doesn't sugarcoat it either. She tells him straight. He's never going to understand these books anyway. The Celestial School's bar is sky high, 150 magical power, and 120 points of intuition. Way more than he bargained for. So, her advice? At least try on the school uniform before he gets kicked out. And when he does, she's standing there, pointing and laughing, saying it's an improvement over his ragged clothes. Back to business, though, there's a real problem. School rules say if you don't get an advisor within 10 days of enrollment, you're out. By the next day, the countdown's at 1. He must find someone. He heads to the Hall of Alchemy, and it's a disaster zone. Students are drunk, the place is messy, and it's basically chaos on every table. He approaches Professor Basil Phyllis, head of the hall. Basil looks at him like, why would someone like you want to join a sinking ship like this? Sonkyul simply says he wants to develop his pre-existing abilities. Then Basil checks the records, sees Sonkyul's major is Celestial School, and instantly agrees. Just like that, Sonkyul's got himself an advisor. Basil tells him to grab any book and start studying. He picks up basic alchemy for beginners and gets to work. That's when Bertelja, and oh, she's furious, starts ranting. To her, calling these drunkards alchemists is a personal insult. She even bets he'll get rewards for completing the book's tasks. So, Sonkyul rolls up his sleeves and starts mixing. Healing ointment, water slime potion, dog transformation potion. The rewards? Nothing life-changing, but better than walking away empty-handed. That night, Christian sends him some juicy intel about a hidden quest. One of the reasons he pushed for Sonkyul to join the Hall of Regret in the first place. Following the instructions, Sonkyul finds a hidden door and goes underground. Blood starts seeping from cracks in the unyielding door, and the second it does, he smashes it open. A strange notification appears. Why did you turn this door handle? He would have picked bravado, but Christian had warned him the answer was curiosity. So curiosity it is. Then a magic circle emerges and asks for its meaning. His answer? Luck. The air shifts. The scene changes. And now, standing before him is a torture chamber. At its center, a devil lounging on a torture chair waiting. The place reeks of old, dried blood. No one stepped foot here since the dorm was shut down, and you can feel it in the air. Sitting in the gloom is a so-called devil, acting smug, stretching like he's been bored out of his mind, even saying he was thinking of breaking out. But our guy? He's no sucker. Christian already fed him the truth. This thing isn't going anywhere. It's been imprisoned here for who knows how long. The devil suggests a little game. 3 pots, a dice hidden in one. Guess correctly, win. He starts shuffling them fast, hands a blur, but Sonkyul doesn't even blink. Picks the right pot and pockets his reward, +1 magical power. Round 2. The devil wants another go, but Sonkyul turns away, bored. That's when the stakes get sweetened. 10 magical power if he wins. Of course, the devil wants something if he loses. Sonkyul's soul. Now, here's what you need to know about this devil. It's really just a parasite. Lets you win the first couple rounds so you get greedy, then takes your soul when you finally lose. But Sonkyul isn't playing blind. He counters with his own terms. 20 magical power if he wins. That sets the parasite off. It's too much. But then he learns our guy's spirit stat is 500. A soul worth that much? Temptation wins. The pots start flying faster than before, but Sonkyul doesn't even bother tracking them. He grabs the devil outright because, surprise, this cheater's hidden the dice in his mouth. Before it can spit excuses, Sonkyul ends the game permanently. +20 magical power. Stats check. 60 magical power, 58 intuition. Still not enough for his goal. So new plan, buy mountains of mana bottles and start cracking soul stones. Break them using only magic and you get power boosts. Bertelja's fuming. It's risky and she calls it cheating, but Sonkyul calls it efficiency. The soul stone in his hands threatens to drain his soul. Warnings even flash that if he feels dizzy or starts trembling, he should drop it. His mana burns away fast, but thanks to the ridiculous stash of bottles he's bought, he smashes it. +2 magical power, +1 intuition. Then another, and another, until exhaustion hits. By the last stone, the danger's real. He's out of mana bottles, so he lets it go. But here's the thing, with his infinite money vault, he could literally buy every mana bottle in the world. Which brings us to how he got that vault. Cut to Governor Hornico, head of the Merchant Union. The gold coins Sankyul spent on all those bottles? They've reached the governor's hands. 8 years ago, the infinite safe was robbed. Rumor says there was a stranger in the Summon Palace during the trials, same name, same man. Yep, it was Sankyul. Now the governor's boiling for revenge. He orders his servant to contact the assassination order and request their best killer. They're about to pick a fight with the strongest human walking. Shift scene again, to the Debaisi study, home of the Almira family. A request lands on their desk. Take out the world's enemy. The assassin chosen? Kaz Almira, eldest son of the family. Songcheol walks back into the celestial class, and immediately Leonard's face says it all, shocked. The guy thought Songcheol had fully transferred to alchemy. But the surprise doesn't last long before Leonard's true colors show. He starts running his mouth, mocking him for not being able to use magic yet. Our guy just smirks. Oh, really? And then decides to make a point. First, he proves he's finished every single answer in Celestial Magic 101. Then, without a word, he lifts his hand and fires a beam of magic so bright it shoots straight into the sky. The result, a brand new skill, Glare. Leonard is frozen. Even Songcheol's impressed. This is only a third-rank spell, but it's sharp. And Althusas? He's staring like he just saw a ghost. Leonard, on the other hand, starts screaming, demanding to know how it's possible, especially since Songcheol shouldn't have enough magical power or intuition. But the truth is simple. Songcheol just hustled for quest rewards and squeezed extra stats out of alchemy until he met the requirements. Leonard spins to his mentor, asking if Althusas handed over some special book. He's rattled now, scared his position might be slipping. He charges forward, grabbing Songcheol by the collar, only to instantly regret it when he's hit with a single glare. Like a terrified chicken, he backs right off, but Leonard's pride kicks in. Flames erupt around him. This is the same guy who's killed an opponent in a duel before, and he clearly means to do the same here. Before it blows up into something lethal, Althusas cuts in, not just to protect Songcheol, but because Leonard's reckless temper is about to expose something dangerous. By losing control, Leonard is basically telling everyone he's a follower of destruction, and that puts Sarasa at risk too. So Althusas flips to diplomacy, showering Leonard with praise, calling him talented, easing him down. Leonard, still simmering, asks why his mentor hasn't told him about the Celestial School's vision. Althusas simply says it's not time yet. Then he reminds Leonard that Perigius, his other mentor, wouldn't want him expelled. Leonard makes it clear Althusas is his only mentor. But in the back of his mind, he's already plotting how to get rid of Songcheol. Meanwhile, our guy's in the training ground, piecing together the magic circle from memory. He fires off Glare again. It's fast, it's clean, it hits the target in a blink. But when he gets close, the damage is pathetic. The kind of pathetic where you question your life choices. This thing wouldn't even take down a low-grade demon, let alone the Demon King Hathanius Max. Sure, the skill's great for speed. It's almost impossible to dodge, but the power just isn't there. So he tries something bold, combining it with his Echo skill. In theory, Glare multiplied could be devastating. He launches Glare, follows with Echo nothing. Tries again, and again, still nothing. Then a system notification pops up. A soulless voice cannot generate Echo. That's when the frustration hits, and Songcheol defaults to what he does best, wrecking things. Out comes the hammer, and the training targets don't stand a chance. And then, in the middle of the destruction, his mind clicks back to something Leonard said, the Celestial School's vision. Now, he wants it, bad. Songcheol meets up with Christian for some digging, and oh boy, Christian's got tea to spill. Turns out Leonard Sanctum, the smug flame school guy, he's a follower of destruction. And not just a casual member, he's the favorite apprentice of Professor Perigius, the almighty dean of the School of Flames. Christian lays out the backstory. 3 years ago, the old principal, Magnus, mysteriously dies. With the top spot wide open, Perigius and Robert Danton, the Icecraft School's dean, go to war for the position. That battle's still raging. The appearance of the followers of destruction. Rumor has it Perigius himself is recruiting them, which makes Leonard's loyalty pretty obvious. Then Christian slips in another detail. Professor Althusas? He owes Perigius a lot of money. Songcheol instantly connects the dots. This has to be for Sarasa. That's enough to work with for now, so Songcheol forks over more coin, telling Christian to dig deeper. Get him a list of every follower inside the school and find out exactly who's in charge. Now cut to Althusas and Sarasa. She's in the middle of treatment, an unsettling kind. Necromancers surround her, casting their magic to keep her body from rotting. Remember, she's already dead, brought back through necromancy, and that means every week they have to maintain her with this ritual. Once they're done, the commander of Logatit steps up for payment. Althusas hands over a bag that's way too light. And then, this great magician, this prideful man, kneels, promising to bring the rest next time. The commander doesn't doesn't like it. This is the second delay. But in the end, he allows it, warning there won't be a third. The necromancers leave, and who comes knocking? Inquisitor Magnus Maxima, demanding to know if Althusas is finally ready to save the school. Meanwhile, Songcheol heads to the alchemy hall, only to find the place scorched, students injured, and smoke still in the air. When he asks what happened, one student says a fireball came out of nowhere before the explosion. A fireball? Yeah, we all know whose signature that is. Straight to the admissions office he goes, telling Robert flat out it was Leonard. But here's the real question. How can a student pull something like this and walk away untouched? Robert explains, no one dares cross Perigius unless they want to end up like Althusas, exiled and disgraced. That's Leonard's shield, his master's influence. Now a grand courtroom-like hall, professors from every school gathered. And there's Leonard, spewing nonsense, waving around a petition to disband the alchemy school entirely, calling it a junkie haven. But let's be real, he's only pushing this to get Songcheol kicked out. Robert arrives with Songcheol in tow. The air's thick, both men are ready to throw down. But before things turn ugly, Althusas steps in, refusing to let Leonard duel. Leonard seizes the moment to jab back, calling out Althusas in front of everyone, reminding him he once killed an assassin deputy priest and put the school in danger. Then Leonard turns to the whole room, asking why they're pretending everything's fine. The principal's been murdered, and meanwhile, the professors are too busy bickering to teach anything worth learning. And just as the tension peaks, a student bursts in with breaking news. Professor Perigius has been murdered. Christian's out there running, but he's not alone. Someone's been tailing him. And every time he picks up the pace, the dark fog around him gets heavier and heavier, almost like it's feeding off his movement. Thankfully, Christian kept his cool and immediately wrote a message, warning our guy that someone's on his back and that they're actually tracking Songcheol's gold coins. He gave the message to the squirrel to deliver it safely. But just when you think he's clear, bam, someone grabs him from behind, choking him out. It's Kezalmyra, the same assassin that's been hunting Songcheol. Meanwhile, back at the academy, the professors are busy investigating what happened to Professor Perigius. The guy's been found dead, and by the looks of the scene, it seems like a meteor came crashing down on him. Basil immediately points fingers, saying only one person at their school has the power to summon such a destructive meteor, Althusas. But Robert isn't buying it. He argues that if it really was Althusas, the entire school would have been reduced to rubble. So Robert throws out another theory. Maybe it's a student's doing. And the name he suspects? Leonard. But before they can corner him, Leonard bolts, swearing it wasn't him and that he'd never kill his own mentor. Here's where our guy's sharp instincts kick in. He knows the meteor is just a cover-up, not the real cause of death, which means the suspect pool just got bigger. It could have been anyone, Robert, Perigius' old enemy, Basil, who already has a shady reputation in the alchemy school, or even Althusas himself, who's rumored to be a follower of destruction. So many possibilities, no solid answers. Later that day, the squirrel finally delivers Christian's message. Now that our guy knows the gold coins are being tracked, the first name that pops into his head is Governor Hornico. And he's spot on. He starts thinking about who else could possibly challenge Governor Hornico. The answer? Emperor Marlborough himself. So, our guy heads over to a store he often visits. The moment he steps inside, he reveals his true identity, the world's enemy. And man, the shop owner nearly dies of fear on the spot, begging for mercy. Instead of killing him, Songcheol throws a dagger at the terrified man, ordering him to take it and head straight for the human empire. His mission? Secure an audience with the emperor. And of course, failure is not an option. You already know what will happen if he messes this up. Bertelja, on the other hand, is fuming. She insists Songcheol should just kill him right there. That way all traces of the gold coins vanish. But Songcheol shuts her down. He doesn't kill people without reason. That's not who he is. Bertelja snaps back, saying the 7 heroes were like that too before they turned into catastrophes. But Songcheol stands firm, recalling Sujin's words that he'll be an unmatched catastrophe, yet confident he won't lose himself to corruption. After that, Songcheol makes his way to the usual spot where he and Christian meet. But instead of finding his servant waiting, he's hit with a devastating sight, Christian tied to a chair dead. The poor guy had been tortured until his loyalty death pact activated and killed him. Just as Songcheol takes this in, someone steps out from the shadows. And who is it? Basil. Basil shows up and actually thanks our guy for shutting down Leonard's nonsense back in the meeting. But then his eyes land on Christian's body, and you can tell it sparks something in his head. He brings up the most shocking case in their school's history, the death of the former principal Magnus. Why? Because Perigius' murder looks almost identical to that one. Turns out Basil's got sharp eyes too, not just our guy. He starts laying out the details, and man, it gets dark. The bones sticking out of Perigius' body, way too clean, and that immediately reminds Basil of a spell called Lich's Dark Care. It's a horrifying spell that rots the flesh of any living creature, sparing only the undead. To make things worse, under the body there wasn't even blood, it was a pool of water. That screams icecraft magic, which makes Robert a possible suspect. But our guy doesn't have the patience for all this chatter. He cuts through the noise, wanting to know what Basil really thinks. That's when Basil drops a bigger theory. theory. He suspects the Inquisitor. The Magnus family, he explains, is stacked with powerful wizards, but the former principal was actually an illegitimate child. He was only recognized because of his insane natural talent. His older brother, Magnus Maxima, didn't have it so easy. They say he grew up locked away in a basement, deprived of everything. With that kind of upbringing, Basil thinks it's more than likely he developed a grudge against his brother and the entire school. So in his mind, the Inquisitor Magnus Maxima could be the real killer. But now, seeing Christian lying dead here, Basil isn't stopping at that. He straight up adds Songcheol to his list of suspects. Then Basil steps closer, holding a needle that gives off a strange vibe, and slyly asks if Songcheol is interested in gaining some benefits from the school. Now, let's be real. The easier option here would have been to just stab Basil and be done with this whole problem. But that's not Songcheol's style. Instead, he plays it cool, brushing him off with, "Nah, I wouldn't take them even if they were handed to me." So they both head off together to pay a visit to Professor Robert. Now here's where things flip. When they get to the admissions office, Robert is acting completely different from earlier. Hours ago, he seemed doubtful, but now he's strutting around all high and mighty. He even promises Basil that he'll keep his position as the head of the Alchemy Hall before dismissing him. Once Basil leaves, Robert turns to Songcheol, convinced he's a chosen one like himself, and straight up asks him who his guide is. Our guy, quick on his feet, drops the perfect lie: the ancient kingdom. That one line seals the deal, because it gives Robert no way to dig into Songcheol's real past or origins. Robert's now eager to pull him to his side. I mean, think about it. Here's someone who mastered magic in just a few days and crafted a level 5 item right after entering the alchemy school. A prodigy like that? Robert's not about to let him slip away. Plus, word is, Songcheol's pockets are more than heavy, and Robert definitely likes the sound of that. So he tempts him with an offer, a position as a professor at the alchemy school. But Songcheol isn't biting. He doesn't want a title, he wants the celestial school's vision. Robert shuts that down immediately, saying it's impossible, since even Althusius never listened to Perigeus or any tyrants before him. So what does Songcheol do? He starts walking away, basically tossing bait to see if Robert will chase after it. And sure enough, Robert bites, offering him instead the vision of the School of Ice Craft. But come on, that's way too basic for Songcheol. He waves it off without a second thought. Now let's jump over to the Human Empire's palace. In the grand audience room, Emperor Walliam Quinton Marlborough is seated on his throne. The shop owner, the same terrified guy Songcheol sent off earlier, finally makes it there, clutching the dagger he was ordered to deliver. The moment Emperor Walliam lays his eyes on the dagger, he's stunned, caught off guard by what it means. Emperor William takes the dagger in his hand, and there's no mistaking it. It's Songcheol Kim's dagger. The emperor immediately issues a command: send out the Second Naval Fleet, led by Admitry Medioff, straight to the Golden City. Their mission: hunt down the world's enemy and eliminate him at all costs. Now shifting back to our guy, Robert pulls out something pretty wild. He tells Songcheol that he'll reveal the path of destruction, the so-called real road to truth. In other words, he's offering Songcheol a taste of catastrophe's power. And the big reveal is that Robert himself is also a follower of destruction. That makes their deal official. Songcheol hands him a treasure chest stacked with gold coins. But remember how Governor Hornico was the one who sent the assassin after our guy, and Emperor Marlborough is also a follower of destruction? Songcheol's plan is to pit them against each other and watch as they tear each other apart. Later, he heads back to class, and Althusius gives him some books about meteors. Now Songcheol has been working his tail off to raise his intuition, but when he flips through the pages, nothing. Turns out, you need at least 210 intuition points just to understand those books. That's insane. But our guy isn't backing down. He still wants the vision. Althusius decides to demonstrate glare, the same skill Songcheol learned. Only difference, when Althusius uses it, the destructive force is on a whole other level compared to Songcheol's version that can't even break a training dummy. Althusius then asks him why he's so obsessed with chasing the vision. And Songcheol, dead serious, answers, "Because I'm going to stop a catastrophe." That reply actually shocks Althusius. To him, trying to stop one catastrophe only triggers another, a never-ending cycle. But Songcheol doesn't buy that logic. He refuses to trust the words of people who haven't even tried. And right at that tense moment, the Almira siblings walk in, Kez Almira, the assassin who was sent to kill Songcheol, and his sister Myra Almira, a poisonous insect expert and the eldest daughter of the family. Kez activates his hidden skill, Night Spectra, a terrifying ability that reveals information about anyone it's used on. Thanks to Songcheol's flawless disguise, they don't realize he's the world's enemy. But Althusius? They immediately see through him, knowing he was the one who killed their deputy priest. Althusius's expression turns cold. No more games. Kez appears behind him, boasting that he's far stronger than that priest. And our guy? He's just standing there chilling, almost entertained, waiting to see how the old man handles himself in battle. But before anything can go down, Myra interrupts, reminding her brother they don't have time to waste. Once they leave, Songcheol starts piecing things together. It clicks. They must be the ones who killed Christian, which means their real target is him. Meanwhile, Meanwhile, as the two assassins are heading back, they cross paths with Leonard. And instead of ignoring him, they decide to have some fun. They drag him into the nearby forest. Kaz slices his ear clean off, and with a silence barrier around them, no matter how loud Leonard screams, nobody is going to hear him or come to the rescue. Kaz keeps lashing him with that whip again and again, every strike tearing into him. And Myra sends out one of her creepy insects that crawls right onto Leonard's back and injects him with venom. The pain is so unbearable, Leonard's screams would have shaken the whole forest. But remember, they set up a silence barrier, so no matter how loud he cries, nobody's coming. Our guy Song Cheol still isn't letting go of his goal. He refuses to leave until Althusas hands over the vision. Althusas, clearly fed up with his stubbornness, finally pulls out multiple marbles and lays down a challenge. These aren't ordinary marbles. They're training tools used to test and measure celestial magic. The rules are straightforward but cruel. One marble randomly turns black, and Song Cheol has to hit it with his magic. Once he does, another turns black, and so on. There are 3 levels in total, each harder than the last with more black marbles to chase. If he can clear all the stages by the end of the day, Althusas will consider giving him the vision. So the test begins. And honestly, it's hilarious at first. The marbles start moving and Song Cheol's just standing there like, are you serious? But then he realizes how tough they actually are. These marbles don't just move, they interfere with magic itself. The second he tries to lock onto the black marble and fire, it gives him no time. He launches one glare after another, but every single shot misses. Not even one hit. Althusas can't hold back his laughter, mocking him. With such mediocre skills, you dare dream of holding the vision? But you know Song Cheol, giving up isn't in his vocabulary. He downs mana potions and keeps grinding, refusing to quit. Hours pass, and he keeps adapting, getting faster and sharper with each attempt. 10 hours straight, and he's still at it. To put that into perspective, it took Althusas himself more than a year to master this test. Then, finally, Song Cheol has a breakthrough. He realizes brute force alone won't cut it, so he combines agility with magic. When the black marble lunges at him, he lowers his body, dodges with ease, then charges after it with incredible speed, striking it dead on. He keeps this up, marble after marble, black streak after black streak, until at last he clears all 3 stages. As a bonus, the system even rewards him with stat points. Althusas is left speechless. This test was designed for seasoned experts, yet Song Cheol crushed it in a single day. Even so, Althusas tells him there's still one final stage left, and they'll take it on tomorrow. When Song Cheol leaves the classroom, he notices someone visiting Althusas this late at night. The man brings a cold coin from the Inquisitor along with a letter. Althusas reads it, and as his eyes scan the page, old memories come rushing back. We finally learn the truth. Magnus, the former principal of Erfurt, was once Althusas' dearest friend. But as Althusas recalls, everyone who climbs to the very top faces a test of greed, and Magnus was no exception. He gave in, became a follower of destruction, and no matter how Althusas begged him to stop, Magnus was already too far gone. This explains why Althusas had to kill him. He sided with Maxima, Magnus' own brother, who carried an unshakable hatred for him, and together they ended Magnus' life. Now, back to the present, Althusas suddenly senses danger. The force field around the Hall of Regret has been broken. That can only mean one thing: Sarasa is in grave danger. At the same time, Song Cheol also feels it. He realizes the protective field has shattered, and a silence barrier now wraps around the building. So, he breaks through the barrier and storms inside. On one side, Althusas is facing off against Kaz. Kaz lunges in with his dagger, but Althusas instantly vaporizes the blade with a single glare. Kaz switches tactics and lashes out with his whip, wrapping it around Althusas' arm to immobilize him. But the old man just dissolves the whip into ashes. Kaz then leaps into the air using his shadowy technique, trying to get the upper hand, but Althusas raises his hand and unleashes Tempesta's Fulguratio. A massive black tornado mixed with lightning tears through the sky, sucking Kaz into its vortex. And let's be real, this is why Althusas carries the title of the strongest sorcerer in all of Erfurt. Kaz fights against it, but Althusas doesn't give him a chance. He opens a portal and vanishes straight to the Hall of Regret. Now inside, Sarasa is in serious danger. She's being attacked by Leonard, who's no longer human. He's mutated into a half-insect monstrosity. She's throwing up magic barriers to protect herself, but her preservation magic is weakening fast, and you can see the toll it's taking on her. On top of that, it seems like Sarasa knows the truth, that she's already died once and was brought back to life. Leonard, now consumed by madness, keeps rambling about the vision and blaming Althusas for what he's become. Then he does something shocking. He starts wielding 2 types of magic at the same time. He fuses them into a devastating spell and hurls it at Sarasa. Just when it looks like she's finished, our guy Song Cheol steps in. He blocks the attack head-on, shielding her from the blast. But Leonard isn't done. He prepares another spell, one so destructive it could level the entire building. Song Cheol pulls out his hammer and tells Sarasa, "Don't tell your grandpa about this." Then he dashes forward with insane speed, swings that hammer, and takes Leonard's arms clean off in one strike. A moment later, whatever parasite or thing string attached to Leonard's back detonates, and Leonard's twisted life ends right there. Just then, Althusas arrives, rushing to check on his granddaughter. Sarasa looks at him and admits the truth. It was thanks to Song Cheol that she survived. And right as that moment settles, Kaz also steps into the scene. Althusas tried using glare on Kaz, but Kaz managed to dodge and slip away, though he couldn't shake off this strange vibe he felt about Songkyol. Little did he know, Songkyol is the world's enemy. Now, Althusas being grateful thanked Songkyol for saving Sarasa, but our clever boy wasn't just going to smile and nod. He used that moment to push Althusas into handing over the vision. Just as Althusas was about to do it, the Inquisitors stormed in, claiming they've got dirt on him, 13 crimes to his name, and now they're here to arrest him. But it's all just a setup, a scheme to purge the school. So the gold coin was basically a bribe in exchange for his life. Before getting dragged away, Althusas reassured Sarasa that he would come back and begged Songkyol to protect her. Sarasa, fired up, wanted to run after her grandfather, but Songkyol calmed her down and told her to trust him with everything. Meanwhile, Kaz's sister wasn't just sitting around. She went to check on Christian, the guy she and her brother were keeping hostage, and left behind a spider to spy and gather information. She thought she was being slick, but nah, Songkyol caught her slipping, appearing right behind her and smacking her to the ground. On the darker side of things, Althusas ended up in the hands of Maxima, who had him locked underground and was torturing him. Keep in mind, these two had previously agreed to work together, but Maxima doesn't care about agreements. Once he learned the world's enemy was around, he realized chaos was about to break loose. So his grand plan? Destroy the city himself before everyone else does. Now here's where it gets personal. Over 40 years ago, Maxima was branded the black sheep of his family, and they ended up selling him to the Purification Order. What he went through there was straight up hell, education that broke him down until he became an Inquisitor. Yup, this guy's grudge runs deep, and now he wants to wipe out the entire Erfurt school just to feed his bitterness. And he's not stopping there either. He ordered assassins to kill professors, including Robert Danton, and maybe even the students. Then the mask came off, literally. Maxima took off his helmet, and surprise, he's not even human anymore. He's a damn lich. The school turned into a bloodbath. Students and professors started falling left and right to these assassins. Among them was Debussy Almira, the silent assassin and head of the Almira family, along with Ilya Almira, the terrifying godmother of venomous insects. Together, these monsters wiped out the entire School of Flames, and they weren't done. They set their sights next on the School of Icecraft. Ilya started worrying about her daughter Myra, since the lovebird moth she sent out never returned. Just then the moth finally arrived, and with it came the heartbreaking truth. Myra was dead. That's when everything snapped. Ilya realized what happened, but at the exact same time, Songkyol made his entrance. And man, I swear, I hope he tears these bastards apart in the most brutal way possible, because they've been slaughtering innocent people without hesitation. Finally, Songkyol dropped the act, revealed his true identity, and demanded one thing: who among them killed Christian? Debussy, thinking he could be the hero, told his wife to step aside and then threw himself at Songkyol. The two clashed hard, steel against steel. But you already know how this ends. Our boy came out on top. No surprise there. After putting him down, Songkyol asked again, straight to the point, who killed Christian. But before the truth could come out, Debussy's wife tried to be slick, sending her butterfly to attack from the shadows. Too bad for her. Our guy already saw that coming. One swift move, and the butterfly was gone. Just like that, both Ilya and her husband were finished, and honestly, they had it coming. Now with them out of the picture, word spread across the academy. Althusas' execution was set for tomorrow at noon. Songkyol went straight to Robert. Turns out, Robert wasn't just sitting around. The man had a backup plan he called his secret weapon. And let me tell you, this wasn't your average weapon. He led Songkyol to a hidden spot guarded by multiple golems, and there it was, a portal. The moment Songkyol laid eyes on it, he knew exactly what it was. This portal, it led straight into the demon world. And Robert's plan? When the execution starts, he's going to activate it and unleash demons into the school. After that bombshell, Songkyol decided to check on Althusas. And how does he do it? By strolling in with a bottle of wine called Cum La Rose. The place is literally flipped upside down. The old man's on death row, and our boy's just chilling like it's a casual evening get-together. But don't get it twisted. Songkyol's got a reason. He's after the vision, and there's no way he's letting Althusas die before he gets it. Althusas explained that transferring the vision takes time, and time is exactly what Maxima won't give them. Before anything else, Althusas asked one last favor. He wanted Songkyol to track down a mercenary wizard going by the fake name Deckard, while he himself would deal with Sarasa. Weird setup, I know, but trust me, everything is still moving along with our boy's plan. Later, Songkyol met Sarasa and laid it out clearly. She wasn't going anywhere to help her grandfather. He'd already pledged his name to protect her and her grandfather, so she had to trust him on this. Then came the morning of the execution. Students and professors packed together to witness it. Maxima raised his hand and gave the order. But the moment he did, a giant demon erupted onto the scene. And now it's showtime. Like I told you, everything is unfolding exactly exactly under Songkyul's control. Let's rewind things back to yesterday. Songkyul asked Robert how the dimensional door works, and Robert, trying to flex a bit, showed him the dimensional key. That was a big mistake, because the moment he pulled it out, our guy straight up snatched the key and smacked Robert. Honestly, I don't even know if Robert's still breathing after that one. So instead of waiting, Songkyul just activated the portal himself. And let me tell you, as terrifying as demons can be, they're still less scary than this guy personally running wild. The portal opened and demons started pouring in. But then a massive airship appeared in the sky and started raining fire on the horde. This was no random ship either. It was the airborne fleet of the Human Empire, led by Dmitry Medvedev. Dmitry immediately sent in his naval infantry with strict orders to find and destroy the dimensional door so the demons could be cut off. The battlefield was absolute chaos, students and soldiers clashing with demons everywhere. And in the middle of all this, Maxima still hadn't given up on his obsession with executing Althusius. But just as things looked like they were about to take a grim turn, the flames burned out and the so-called world's enemy showed up. Songkyul wasted no time, charging straight at Maxima with a devastating blow. Now Maxima didn't die right away, because of course he's a lich. He starts talking big, saying no one can kill him as long as he holds the pact of immortality. But Songkyul couldn't care less. He just enlarged his hammer, slammed Maxima, and then kept slamming him again and again until there was nothing left but dust. And let's be real here, pact of immortality or not, once you're dust you're done. End of story. That was the moment Althusius realized without a doubt, our boy is the true world's enemy. Just then Kaz tried to play sneaky, coming from behind with a dagger. But the second that blade touched Songkyul's skin it shattered like glass. Songkyul sent Kaz flying, probably reuniting him with his family on the other side. With the threat cleared, Songkyul and Althusius managed to escape the battlefield. Meanwhile, Saresa, who had been worrying herself sick, was relieved to see her grandfather alive and safe. Then came the moment to pass on the vision. They approached a glowing magic sphere that spun. Suddenly, light shot into the sky and constellations formed overhead, illuminating the place. The light descended onto Songkyul, and when he opened his eyes, he was standing there completely naked, radiating a brilliance so overwhelming that even he himself struggled to endure it. This light wasn't just any glow, it was a force capable of devouring everything. According to Althusius, the light shows a different form depending on the desires of the one who beholds it. Then Althusius presented him with something extraordinary, the primordial glow, a legendary grade magic book. To even comprehend it, Songkyul needs 500 intuition. And on top of that, this spell sits at tier 7, which means it's leagues above ordinary magic. Even so, Songkyul declared his plan without hesitation. He intends to rid the world of the catastrophe devil lord Hathanius Max. Althusius was stunned, calling the idea outrageous. But Songkyul doesn't put his faith in any book of destruction. He's determined to prove that humanity can defy any prophecy, no matter how bleak. Seeing his current magical stats weren't nearly enough, Althusius advised him to seek out his son Deckard, who was holding the front lines of the demon world. Deckard could help Songkyul boost his intuition and prepare for what's ahead. And because our boy isn't all fists and fury, he even left them with a chest full of gold coins. Saresa burst into tears, thanking him for everything he had done for their family. Turns out, beneath the destruction and chaos, our main character really does have a heart of gold. And now, with everything set in motion, Songkyul is stepping into the demon world, ready for the next chapter of his journey. We're right in the front lines of the demon world, and who's holding the line? Criminals who've been thrown here to defend an outpost by killing demons as redemption for their sins. These guys spot someone approaching and immediately freeze. A human? Out here? That's insane considering how swarmed with demons the area is. So, naturally, they drag our guys straight to the redemption force. Like I said, every single one of them is a criminal force to fight on this front line or die trying. That's when we meet the bold loudmouth trying to act scary in front of our boy. LOL, little did this dude know who he's actually talking to. His name? Gonga's Aaron, but the whole squad calls him Rockhead, and believe me, the name fits perfectly. Next up, we're introduced to Akkad, the longest-serving member of the Redemption Force, better known as Hell Fists. He tells our guy, "Call me Zero." Yep, they don't go by names here, only numbers. When our boy asked about Deckard, Akkad said, "Oh, number 22. Why would you look for a man who's practically on the brink of death?" Turns out, Deckard only volunteers for the most dangerous missions where death is almost guaranteed. Akkad eventually takes him to Deckard, who, plot twist, is actually Sarasa's father, which makes perfect sense since he's Althusius' son. To prove his connection, our guy shows Deckard Althusius' ring. But before things move forward, Akkad demands to see his stats, but our boy wasn't about to play fair. He used Veil of the Deceiver on the system itself. Bro really doesn't care. It's like he owns the system. Deckard, seeing this, admits that he came here to push himself beyond his limits, because that's exactly what the world's enemy did to become stronger. The funny part, he's saying that while the actual world's enemy is standing right in front of him. Deckard makes a promise, though. If our guy survives long enough here, he'll personally teach him every magical quest he knows. Now back to business. The Redemption Force force had lost a guard post to demons last month, and the mission now was to reclaim it. Who's leading? Unfortunately, Rockhead. Yup, the worst commander you could ever imagine. They head out, wipe out the demon guards, and enter the outpost. But surprise, it's empty. Of course, it's a trap. Akkad even mutters that they've already fallen for this kind of trap before. Honestly, having Rockhead as captain is less of a punishment for him and more of a curse for the whole squad. Suddenly, giant rocks start raining down on them. Demons charge in from every side and chaos erupts. Deckard, being sharp, notices our boy's alchemist class listed on his stat board, so he hands him a teleportation scroll. He tells him to use it to escape if things get too deadly. Again, little did he know who he's talking to. Deckard warns him that useless bravado only leads to death. But as the demons close in, archers start raining arrows. Akkad is smashing through demons with his fists, and our boy activates Glare. Then it happens. A massive demon charges straight at Deckard. If it weren't for our boy stepping in and saving him, Deckard would have been minced meat. Our boy even throws Deckard's own words back at him. Useless bravado, huh? That's when Deckard decides to unleash his trump card. He channels the power of the skies and summons a meteor shower, obliterating wave after wave of demons. But the spell eats away at his mana and stamina like crazy. Even worse, the demon leader is still alive, and now he's summoning even more demons into the fight. Rockhead, in a panic, calls for reinforcements, but the reply is brutal. They tell him if he wanted backup, he should have shared his battle plan earlier so they could prepare. This is exactly what I meant when I said having Rockhead as your commander is like a death sentence. He's literally dragging the redemption force straight into hell. They're completely surrounded, and Rockhead, this guy really had the nerve to tell everyone to just trust in themselves and they'll make it out alive, even though he's the one who dragged them into this mess in the first place. Then Deckard, finally thinking straight, came up with a plan. If they could carve a path through the canyon and seal off the opening with magic, they might just be able to shake those demons off their backs. Of course, Rockhead acted like he'd been the genius behind the idea all along, pointing and nodding like, "Oh yeah, that's not bad. Sure, buddy." So they rushed to the edge, leaping straight into the horde of demons, hacking and blasting their way through, each one covering the other's back, while our boy was casually shooting Glare's left, and right like this was just another day for him. Then out of nowhere, a roper demon showed up. Our guy locked in on its weak point, but before he could finish the shot, Deckard jumped in and sliced the thing clean in half. The look on Deckard's face was priceless. He couldn't believe this guy was supposedly just a beginner. Well, he's not. The fight raged on, blades clashing and spells flying, until Deckard's sword finally snapped. Just as a demon lunged at him, our boy stepped in and saved him at the last second. That's what happens when a wizard insists on swinging around a sword like he's in some medieval drama. Deckard, catching his breath, muttered about how hard it's been to get mana potions lately since some punk's been clearing out the market. Funny thing is, little did he know, the so-called punk was actually our Sankiel all along. Rock had somehow managed to bring down one of the massive demons, opening a path for them to escape. But just as they bolted, the demon leader charged after them. Our boy looked up, aimed at the rocks above, and brought the whole cliff crashing down, blocking the monster off. Still, they'd lost more people in the chaos. Once they regrouped, Deckard handed our boy a marble of knowledge. The quest tied to it, grave cleaning. Not exactly glorious, and the reward was barely worth it, just +5 to magical power. But Deckard explained he'd have more to offer as our guy continued to progress. Later, the survivors sat down to eat, though the mood was grim. Their so-called commander Rockhead didn't show the slightest bit of regret. The man didn't give a damn about those who died, honestly. He seemed more like a spy planting demons in their path than an actual captain. Our boy eventually sat down with Deckard, who was chilling quietly, and finally got him to talk. Deckard revealed the real reason he was here, the dungeon. Rumors said there was an ancient dungeon nearby, one created long before the era of the Seven Heroes, filled with immense magical power. When Sankiel asked if it was tied to the Seven Heroes, Deckard shook his head. This dungeon went back even further. He asked if Sankiel had ever heard the old tales of the people who went underground to escape the curse of extinction. To Sankiel, those were just stories people made up to cope with their grief. But Deckard was convinced. He believed the dungeon was built by those very underground survivors. As their talk ended, and our guy made his way back to camp, he noticed smoke rising from the outpost. That could only mean one thing. They were under attack. And right then, Deckard's voice rang out in a scream. Everyone's just survived a demon smackdown, battered but breathing. Well, everyone except Deckard. He's alive thanks to our guy, but the poor man's been poisoned. Criminals have zero access to antidotes. Not exactly the neighborhood pharmacy. So, our boy doesn't waste time. He's not about to let Deckard bite the dust, especially when Deckard's holding juicy intel about the dungeon. First stop, the blade that cut him. And what does he find? Oh, nothing ordinary, just iron forged from troll poop. Yep, courtesy of the Joe tribe. Luckily, the cure's straightforward, lonely grass. So off he goes, farming like he's about to open a medieval salad bar, gathering way more than necessary. Then, channeling his alchemy cooking skills, he whips up an antidote so good it earns him rewards for crafting high-quality goods. Easy peasy. Deckard perks right up, and for the second second time, our guy has saved his hide. Grateful, Deckard spills more about the dungeon. Once home to the Joe tribe, now buried under a catastrophic event. Back in the day, it was called the Underground Kingdom, boasting an advanced civilization, until everything went wrong, and they ended up enslaved by an ancient god. The prize for conquering this dungeon? The power to bring any catastrophe class being under your command. Translation: our boy could end up with a demon familiar that would make most villains jealous. Cut to near the dungeon. Turns out our hero's not the only one with this destination pinned. Enter Michael Guilford, sword master of the ancient kingdom, leading his own crew. They're being chased by demons, which leaves only one option: straight into the dungeon. But not everyone's on board. Mimi Azrael says they need more top-tier sword masters before diving in. She's got 3 homunculi under her control, so you know she's no pushover. Tension spikes. Michael's raising his sword at her for disobedience when Ode, the loyal Guilford family butler, steps in to smooth things over. No time for a peaceful resolution, though. Here come even more demons. Welp, decision made, they're going in. And who else waltzes up at that moment? Our boy, smirk plastered on his face like he just got VIP dungeon access. Inside, it's exactly as promised, the remnants of the Joe tribe's underground kingdom. Bertelja pipes up with some lore. Naharks, not to be confused with the Joe, were an ancient winged race, runes carved into their beaks so they could sling powerful magic. But something's off. Our guy tests it, lobs a rock at a barrier. Boom. Fireball on impact. Only the barrier's not to blame for the pile of corpses lying around, which leaves the ominous question: what is? Cue entrance. One big, very green monster. Bertelja is peeking out from our guy's pocket like a nosy little roommate, pointing at the green beast ahead with a face that basically screams, nope, bad vibes. This thing isn't playing nice either. It lunges at Sankyol, ready to make him lunch. But then one intense stare from our boy, and the monster doesn't just back off. It practically splats and bolts like it just remembered it left the stove on. Those who serve the ancient god call this thing the Endless Abyss. When it spots someone weak, it doesn't just kill them, it changes them into one of its own. The one saving grace? If you're weak but don't get eaten, you're safe. Bertelja, ever the drama queen, is ready to dip out entirely, but our guy just grins. Oh no, the party's just getting started. Not long after, a new pack of nightmares shows up, decaying Naharks, looking disturbingly like bald, half-rotted chickens. One leaps at him. He swings his hammer down with a crack, then throws it, letting it ricochet between enemies like a wrecking ball on caffeine, smashing through every last one. But the danger isn't over. He senses another wave of these things overhead. If they're upstairs, odds are the entire dungeon floor system is crawling with them. Meanwhile, the earlier hammer throw blasted a hole in the wall. And who's on the other side? Mimi and her trio of homunculi. They approach the gap, spotting our guy. He gives a casual, name's 34, just investigating this place. Mimi's not buying the casual act. She activates Leakage the stat to read his numbers. But thanks to his veil of the deceiver, she can't tell he's the world's enemy. She can see he's strong though, and drops the warning. Well, Guilford will be here soon with a sword master, and they'll crush anything in their way. Then, poof, she and her creations vanish behind an invisible barrier. Our guy, curious, activates the Eye of Truth, but she's hiding her strength behind the same kind of veil he's using. So for now, it's a shadow game. He'll just tail her quietly. Elsewhere, Michael's men are dropping like flies, swarmed by dungeon beasts. Mimi returns to find her homunculi griping. It's because Michael won't listen. Now we're all gonna die here. Michael snaps, slicing off a chunk of Mimi's hair in a fit of anger. But no one dares kill her. She's the only one who knows the dungeon's path. Once again, Ode, the ever-patient butler, steps in to de-escalate. And in the middle of all this chaos, our boy is just lurking in the background, watching their little soap opera play out. But playtime's over. He decides there's nothing left worth finding on this floor, so he goes full demolition mode, smashing through the ground to drop down to the second floor. Then he spots a suspicious wall nearby and thinks, why not? One good hit, and it crumbles, spilling out the skeletons and bones of fallen elves. Bertelja's voice was low but sharp. Turns out the Narc weren't just bad news. They were straight-up tyrants, enslaving other races because of their arrogance and cruelty. But looking at the sheer number of them here, yeah, something's definitely off. Then a lone survivor staggers in, collapsing at our guy's feet. Barely able to speak, he explains he'd been jumped by cave elves the moment he stepped onto this floor. Normally, cave elves keep to themselves, but these? They've adapted to this hellish dungeon. And now they're monsters. Before he can say more, an arrow nails him right in the head. Cave elves. The moment one of them lunges, our boy's already there. Pal Garaz swinging down in a bone-splintering smash. In a blink, he's on the next one, hammer crashing into ribs, sending it flying. The last elf falls too, but not before letting out a piercing whistle that echoes through the cavern. That's bad. That's an invitation. And sure enough, here comes the swarm. Hammer in hand, he knows if he goes wild with Pal Garaz, the whole dungeon's gonna come down around them. Time to switch it up. From his arsenal, he draws the Cassandra Demon Whip, a weapon once wielded by the Balrog Road to command legions of demons. The whip coils in his grip, then ignites in roaring flame. In a place this narrow, it's perfect. One sharp swing and fire tears through the air, engulfing the oncoming elves. The flame flames snake between them, crisping armor, burning flesh. It's over in seconds. Bertelja pops her head out and tosses a jab. Don't you think it's just the weapon doing all the work? She's not wrong. It's a monster of a weapon. Then she asks why he clings to the hammer when he's clearly packing so many powerful toys. Simple answer. Pal Garaz is the only thing tough enough to survive his full strength. Anything else would shatter in his hands. But that little mystery sticks. Why are cave elves riding Nar? Our guy thinks back. The endless abyss, the rotting Joe tribe, now these elves. Maybe the ancient god's corruption is tearing apart the natural order itself. He keeps moving, blasting through walls and floors like they're made of paper. That's when he stumbles onto Michael's crew, locked in a bloody fight with dungeon beasts. Michael's a sword master, no doubt, but even he slips, nearly taking a hit if not for Ode, the sharp-eyed butler who's always watching his back. When the dust settles, the victory feels hollow. Their numbers are down to just a few battered soldiers. That's when Mimi storms in, fists flying, socking Michael across the face. She warned him not to open that door. He opened it anyway. And now, well, one look around says it all. They're in deep trouble. Michael's face was red with fury. He snapped at Mimi, reminding her that when his father arrives, there will be hell to pay if they haven't dug up the dungeon's treasure yet. Mimi didn't take it lying down. She mocked the oh-so-noble ancient kingdom family, right to his face. Ode, ever the peacekeeper, told her to stop before things got ugly. But you can feel it. Karma is sharpening its knife in the corner. That's when our boy strolls in, casually pointing out that if you've just slapped Willie Guilford's son, the 7th Continental himself, you must be rocking some seriously high status, maybe even a court wizard? Bold guess, but Mimi shuts it down fast. The ancient kingdom doesn't even have court wizards. Then Mimi does something surprising. She spills the beans. Everyone here's chasing one thing, the Narc King's crown. Through the system, she even flashes him the full quest info, free of charge. The crown lies buried deep with the Great Joe tribe, rulers of both sky and earth in their prime. The Narc King gained unbelievable power at the cost of wiping out his own kin. The dungeon's quest is clear. Find the king's body and crown on sublevel 4. Whoever claims it will uncover a fragment of the truth. Our guy naturally asks, why hand all this over for nothing? Mimi just smirks. It's common knowledge. Then she drops the line with absolute confidence. No one but her will ever touch that crown. And honestly, she's not wrong. You'll see. But don't think for a second that means Sonkyol's just gonna stand around. Before heading off, she makes it clear. She knows he's hiding his true strength. If they both survive, they'll meet again. Oh, and one more tidbit. Willie Guilford himself is on the way, and he's got history with our guy. So back to business. Sonkyol does what he does best, punches holes straight to the lower levels. Down here, mana is so thick it's practically infinite. Soon he's standing in the audience chamber of the Joe tribe king on sublevel 3, surrounded by piles of skeletal remains, the grim proof of a clan's annihilation. He tries smashing through to sublevel 4, but no dice. Pal Garaz comes down again and again, yet the floor doesn't crack. Something's protecting it, a repellent defense spell that blankets the entire level. He pushes forward, passing 4 intact statues out of 6, spotting rubies left by long-dead adventurers who probably killed each other over them. Now they're stashed safely in his vault. Then he sees it, a throne. And because why not, he drops himself onto it. A booming voice fills the chamber. The one who desires the throne is the Nahark's enemy, and a fireball roars toward him. He dodges without breaking a sweat. Before he can even grin, another trap triggers, a massive sword swinging down in a deadly arc, aiming to cleave him in two. The ground shakes. The 4 statues aren't stone anymore. They're alive, and each one's got its own nasty brand of magic. The first unleashes Demon Soul Voider, sending a storm of massive blades whistling through the air straight for our boy. Right after, the second statue calls forth Dread Coil Viper, a giant, rock-headed serpent slithering after him. But he weaves between them effortlessly, not even breaking a sweat. While slipping past their attacks, he fires off a glare spell. The air here is saturated with mana, and that supercharges the glare way beyond normal. The statues keep coming. He ducks a fireball from one, but then another statue summons the abyss. A yawning portal of darkness opens behind him, and clawed hands shoot out to pin him in place. Bertelja's clinging to him, shouting, "Why are you just dodging and not hitting back?" Well, because their chained elemental attacks are designed so that if you don't take them all down in one hit, you're toast. So, time to try something new. Not the usual hammer carnage. He leaps high into the air, blasts a glare, then follows it immediately with his secret technique, Echo. The result, that single glare multiplies again and again, detonating like a cascade of pure light and wiping out every statue in the room. Without the mana-rich environment here, he couldn't have pulled it off. When the dust settles, he's left with a rare loot drop, luminous stones. Bertelja explains they're luminous obsidian, perfect for grinding into obsidian powder, which boosts magic power. She suggests a break. He's fine with that. It's time to let him cook. Using his alchemy, cooking, skills, he tosses ingredients together, turning the luminous obsidian into fine powder. And right when the crafting's done, his stomach growls like it's declaring war. Dinner time. He whips something up for himself, even as Bertelja urges him to hurry and claim the dungeon's reward before anyone else. But seriously, no one does anything great on an empty stomach. stomach, not even the strong. With food in his belly, the plan shifts. Head back to the second floor and shadow Michael's team. Sure, he could smash through that third floor defensive spell with glare, but even if they push to the fourth floor, they're blind without intel. He launches himself into the air, drops down to floor 2, and what does he find? Rockhead, locked in a fight with the elves. Right beside him stands Willie Guilford, 7th Continental, Sword Master, and Michael's father. Rockhead's been working with Willie all along, which means he's not just some random tough guy. He's part of the ancient kingdom. Willie stood before the remaining men, talking about those who died in the expedition. Rockhead, he just shrugged. Making new sinners for the Force is easy. That's when it clicked. This guy isn't just bad. He's worse than the demons. Even our boy's blood boiled. These sinners died because they followed the wrong leader, and now their corpses are being used as trail markers. Shoving the anger down, Sankyol found the stairs leading to the third floor. Quietly, he trailed them and overheard Willie arguing with his son. As expected, the old man was already disappointed. Still no sign of the crown, most of the party dead, and nothing to show for it. Ode, being Ode, tried to cool them off, noting that Mimi was also leading a part of the search. But they just wouldn't stop bickering, so we'll fast forward to the moment things went from annoying to deadly. The endless abyss surrounded them. Anyone they swallowed became one of them. Party members started dropping fast, and, get this, Rockhead, the same man who shrugged at their deaths, bolted like the coward he is. Willie, however, pulled out something from his inventory, an ancient lamp containing moonlight. The glow was otherworldly as he ordered his people to strike the creatures within the light's reach. Mimi saw her opening and slipped away from the chaos. Sankyol, of course, followed her. She led him to a strange door and pointed out she already knew he was the one who turned the golems here to ash. With a swift spell, she unlocked the door. A chilling system message appeared. Honorable One, greet the king of the destroyed world, who will be returning soon. And there it was, the truth. The Nark king's crown rested in the grave of the Joe tribe king below. Then, just like that, Mimi teleported away, leaving him standing there. Oh, she'd completely played Willie and the ancient kingdom crew. They'd been nothing but her unwitting escorts, bleeding and dying so she could get here. Then the temperature dropped. Black fog coiled around him, thick and cold. Activating the Eye of Truth, he saw them, ghosts drifting forward out of the dark. The ghosts drifted closer, and even they seemed to acknowledge just how strong our boy was. Their warning was chilling. Once the king awakens, every living thing in this dungeon is done for. Sankyol's response? A bored scoff and, then I'll just kill him. Simple. That clearly didn't sit well, because the ghosts suddenly shifted form, weaving an illusion field around him. Shadows twisting, reality bending. But they picked the wrong opponent. Thanks to the ancient warrior's unyielding skill, mind games and cheap tricks roll right off him like water. When the haze faded, the floor was littered with strange corpses. Mutated bodies that looked like an unholy mix between cave elves and Nark, like something deliberately bred to keep intruders away. The metallic tang in the air was impossible to miss. The whole place reeked of mercury. From behind, Mimi was already mid-incantation, her trio of homunculi forming a defensive wall. They were holding their ground, even pushing the monsters back, until one of the beasts unleashed a magical blast. One homunculus leapt in front of it, taking the full hit. It crumpled to the ground, motionless. The sacrifice bought Mimi the time she needed. Her voice rose, completing the spell, boiled mercury rain. High temperature, vaporized mercury poured down, a horrific mix of alchemy and metallurgy designed to melt through the enemy. It worked, but in a space this tight, the fumes hit her too. She coughed up blood, staggering, yet still pressed forward. Bertelja, sitting snug in our boy's pocket as always, groaned dramatically about feeling exhausted from mercury poisoning. She hasn't lifted a finger all fight. Then it happened, a nosebleed. From him. That's a first. The mercury had sapped his stamina, and for a moment he actually felt it. But then his passive skill, blood of a light warrior, kicked in, restoring him to full strength the moment his stamina dipped to 30%. Even he admitted it had been a long time since he'd felt this way. Recharged, he went right back to his favorite pastime, blasting holes through walls and floors, tearing his way deeper in search of the Joe tribe king's grave. It was relentless until he came upon a door that practically screamed bad news. And stepping through it came the next challenge. The cursed one. Our boy wasn't messing around. He whipped out the Cassandra demon whip, snagged the monster, yanked it in, and then BM, Palgaraz smashed it straight into the suspicious door. Funniest part, the hit didn't just kill the monster, it also obliterated the door in one swing. And just like that, he'd reached the lowest floor of the dungeon, the Nark King's tomb. A shimmering barrier wrapped around it, and there was only one way to open it: sprinkle it with the hot blood of a Nark royal. Problem is, Nark royals were supposed to be long gone, nothing left but dusty trophies. Or so everyone thought. Bertelja's solution was simple: just smash it. Problem? This wasn't a wall you could break without consequences. One wrong move, and the entire dungeon could come crashing down. That's when it hit him. Mimi had been way too confident about getting the crown. She knew something, so he backtracked. Sure enough, the expedition party had caught up to her, and they'd killed one of her homunculi. The thing was somehow still barely alive despite multiple sword wounds. With its fading strength, it told him him Mimi had escaped, but they'd taken her eyes. When he finally found her, Mimi was alive but cornered by two men ready to finish her off. They didn't get the chance. Songkyul beheaded them both in an instant and handed her a health potion. That's when the truth came out. The tomb could be opened, and now Ode also knew how. Ode, who'd do anything to make Michael the next heir. And yes, he was the one who blinded her. The plan: lay low and reach the tomb before them. She told him about a narc farm on the southeast side of the 4th sublevel, where cave elves had turned the surviving narc into livestock after the Zhou tribe king's fall. The quest required the blood of a newborn narc. And newborn narc? Yup, it's a chicken. A magical chicken, sure, but still a chicken. Once mighty, the narc had grown weak without their king, losing battle after battle against the cave elves until they were domesticated. Most lost their magic, though a few mutants could still wield it. They returned to the tomb to hide, knowing Will and his crew would show up. Sure enough, they did. And then, oh, this was rich. Michael proudly held up a fluffy white baby chicken, thinking he'd just scored the key to the tomb. As Mimi casually talked about the color of the royal chicken, she suddenly vanished. Moments later, Michael slaughtered it, letting its blood spill onto the barrier. The barrier shattered, but the tomb didn't open. Instead, the ground shook and a towering narc stepped forward, the guardian of the tomb. Blade in hand, it swung straight for Michael. Ode threw himself in the way, shoving Michael aside and taking the fatal blow. Ode was gone in an instant. And now Songkyul? He was furious. Mimi had played him, and that was a mistake she was going to regret. The guardian's voice was full of rage. The so-called royal chicken Michael had just sacrificed? Nothing but a worthless hybrid. Michael's pride snapped. He charged in, unleashing a storm of slashes on the guardian. But every single strike was blocked, and the counterattack came fast and brutal. Michael was left badly wounded and barely standing. It looked over for him, until Mimi stepped out of the shadows, one of her homunculi at her side. She bowed before the guardian, her tone smooth and respectful, announcing she had brought an offering to the great immortal king. Then she activated true colors, and the homunculus changed before everyone's eyes, revealing itself as a blue narc, pure-blooded and unmistakable. The truth hit hard. The real key had been a blue narc all along, not the white one Michael had flaunted. Without hesitation, she beheaded it. The severed head was offered to the tomb. The moment the blood hit, the guardian vanished, and the immortal narc king himself awakened, Maraka. Mimi knelt low, congratulating him on his return. With a flicker of power, Maraka restored her sight, like her blindness had never happened. She told him the truth of the present, that his people had all perished, sacrificed to turn him into a divine being. Maraka asked her if there was anything she desired. Before she could answer, Willie arrived. Mimi didn't waste a breath. She pointed right at him and declared that this man was an enemy of the narc. Willie drew his blade instantly. Dark energy poured from it, taking the form of a massive viper, materialization of dark energy, and it lunged for Maraka. The narc king simply spread his wings and unleashed Revolt Feather Cascade, shredding the attack midair. But the rain of razor feathers didn't stop. It veered toward Michael. Willie threw himself forward, raising the warding shield to block the storm. Over the roar of the assault, he promised his son that if he survived, he'd make him the head of the Guilford family. But Maraka's attack was unrelenting. The shield splintered. Michael fell, lifeless, and Willie himself was torn apart by the barrage. Mimi just stood there, mocking them, talking about karma as if the whole scene was poetic justice. That's when our boy stepped into the tomb, Pal Garaz in hand. Willie's gaze locked on him, and the recognition was immediate. This wasn't just an enemy. This was the world's enemy. These two had history. Maraka didn't hesitate. Another feather barrage filled the air. Songkyul planted his feet, poured his power into the hammer, and smashed it into the ground, the shockwave tearing through the incoming attack. Willie was on the brink of death, but before the end, he rasped out the truth. Songkyul had gone beyond being a superhuman. He had become a transcendental being. Maraka's eyes narrowed. With a single gesture, he summoned the guardian back into the chamber, its massive frame looming over Songkyul like a mountain. And in that tense moment, the last piece of the puzzle slid into place. Willie Guilford, the man now gasping for life, had once fought side by side with Songkyul as a comrade. The guardian stood tall, calling forth his deadly army and bragging that his soldiers could end a life with just a touch. You already know how this is about to go down. Our boy tightened his grip on that hammer, poured his strength into it, slammed it into the ground, and boom. That entire army vanished like they were never there. The guardian lunged, trying to land a decisive blow. One clean counter and his weapon shattered. He charged again, fists flying, but this time our boy met him punch for punch. Literally. The guardian's body went the same way as his weapon. And somehow, Maraka was still thinking this was just an ordinary human standing before him. Maraka called on his father's dark magic, shadows swirling, but before he could even blink, our boy was behind him, hands locked around those majestic wings. And just like that, rip, no more wings. An immortal king, grounded and humiliated by someone he underestimated. But Maraka wasn't done scheming. He muttered about needing a sacrifice. His gaze landed on Mimi. In one swift motion, he seized her, drained her life, and in doing so healed his wounds and restored his wings. Our guy rushed in again, weapon raised, but Maraka raised something even deadlier, the Zhou tribe's defense barrier. This thing doesn't just block physical attacks, it cancels them and sends them back 3 times harder. The next second, our boy was tasting his own power at triple force. Pain still fresh, he unleashed Glare, a spell that stunned Muraka in place. In that single opening, the king lost an arm and a good chunk of his left side. Muraka's response was to put up the Transcendental Being Barrier, a defense that both heals its user and blocks physical and magical damage. His plan was simple: sit tight, heal up, then crush his opponent. But our boy made it clear, barrier or not, he was going to end this. In fact, he even offered Muraka a way out. Hand over your crown, and I'll spare your life. Muraka froze, baffled. Why would a human want the Narc crown? The answer came quick. The crown grants the Narc king's authority and power, and more importantly, the dungeon's reward is a catastrophe-level familiar. That was it for Muraka. He burst out laughing, scoffing that the crown had no such power, and mocking the idea of a catastrophe-class familiar. But the familiar part? Completely true. You'll see why soon. Sonkyul felt like a fool for believing Deckard's tale, but with Muraka still grinning like he had this fight in the bag, our boy decided to stop playing. He activated Obsidian Power, cranking his magic output even higher. Plus, the area was rich in mana. Right now, his magical attack was boosted to a staggering 300%. Then came the move that would shake the chamber. Glare, followed instantly by the secret technique, Echo, splitting that glare into countless, devastating reflections, all aimed straight at the so-called Immortal King. That so-called impenetrable barrier didn't stand a chance. With his magic stacked on top of layer after layer of mana buffs, Sonkyul's glare ripped right through it. Muraka still wasn't ready to die. He tried to make a break for it, only to have a hammer hurled at him, cutting off his escape. He bolted anyway, tearing up to the 3rd floor. Sonkyul chased. Then the 2nd, then the 1st. The king was clawing for the exit like freedom was just a breath away, until the whip lashed out and yanked him back down. At this point, surrender would have been the smart move. And just to make things interesting, Sonkyul let him reach the surface. The moment sunlight touched him, Muraka's body began to dissolve. He collapsed back into the dungeon in agony. That's when the truth came out. The earth itself had rejected him. Why? The curse of extinction. A death curse birthed by a god who arrived with the catastrophes. Every child born after that disaster was doomed to die before adulthood. Muraka missed the cutoff by a single year. His father, the previous king, wanted him, the one with black feathers, to be the heir, so he forced him into a 3,000-year hibernation, fueled by the lives of the cave elves and Narc who served him. And just like that, the reason behind those elves riding Narc mounts finally made sense. Since this happened millennia ago, Muraka had been infected before the curse had even finished spreading. Now, with his body already failing, he planned to burn the earth itself, a twisted memorial to the kin who sacrificed everything for him. Sonkyul pitched another way. Stay, help me, and I'll break the curse. Muraka dismissed it outright, convinced this was nonsense. But Sonkyul reminded him, there are people who've beaten it before. The 7 heroes did, and he's stronger than every single one of them. Muraka's pride wouldn't bend. That's when Bertelja climbed out of the pocket, finally snapping. She told him flat out, he had no idea what his kin's life had become. And so they took him to see it for himself. The farm, rows of what was once a proud race, now reduced to livestock. Narc penned like chickens, butchered for meat. That was the reality, and seeing it shattered Muraka's composure. In that moment, the Immortal King's rage lit up the dungeon. Muraka finally made his choice. He put his trust in our human boy. Then, in a blink, he was gone, transformed into Marakia's egg. But there was more left behind. His soul's essence lingered, ripe for the taking. Sonkyul absorbed it. Strength, agility, stamina, no gains there. He was already way beyond Muraka in those areas. But magic and intuition? That was a jackpot. His magical power and intuition shot up to nearly 500 points each. At that level, we're talking past the limits of what any superhuman could dream of. With that kind of boost, our boy casually dropped that he'd soon be paying a visit to the demon lord himself, Athanius Max. Now, let's shift the scene to the Hermit Tower, the place where the legendary Book of Destruction is kept. Leaders from across powerful factions had gathered. Isu Jang of the Iron Blood Knights, Akanan of the Assassination Order, Kent from the Human Empire, and Kapeki of the Merchant Union. None of them had a clue why the tower's master, Porphyry, had summoned them. Porphyry broke the news. He'd seen the Zhou Tribe King's catastrophe appear in the book. But then it vanished. That stunned the room. Catastrophes are written in stone, inescapable events. They don't just stop. But this meant whoever stopped it had the power to halt any catastrophe, even if it meant becoming one themselves. And then, making her entrance, Caunus, half-dragon, Porphyry's right hand. Before this day, the book had described the Zhou Tribe King as a monster who devoured his kin in bloody tears, destined to unfurl wings of sin and drape darkness over the world. Now that prophecy was gone, erased, thanks to our boy. Of course, no one there knew that the so-called world's enemy was the hero behind it. Remember how I told you the dungeon's reward was a catastrophe-level familiar? Well, this seals it. Marakia's egg was exactly that. Isu Jang couldn't swallow it and tried to argue, but one single glare from Caunus shut him down cold. Porphyry pushed on. They needed answers fast. He asked the leaders to lend their strength to find out who stopped the catastrophe catastrophe. And here's the punchline. Every single one of them was too busy dealing with problems caused by Sangkyul himself. So Kanis decided, fine, she'd do it alone. She shifted into her full dragon form, wings stretching wide, and with a powerful beat of those wings, she took to the sky, heading straight into the unknown to uncover the truth.